Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching second and final part of What If Naruto was sent back in time with Gaara during Shodaimes era. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
When Tsunade heard the bottom of the door open and saw a tray of food slide through it, she was sitting with her eyes closed against the walls of her cell. Tsunade was thinking, I hate this, how much longer are they going to keep me here? The only one who comes by is the Tsuchikage and he just checks the security of the room, grabs all the dishes making sure I don't have any weapons and leaves. Why are they doing this to me? They won't even tell me what they want. When she starts to weep. She calmed down, picked up the tray of food and started eating, but she mostly just played with it. She blinked as a tiny bit of smoke rose from her bowl as she was almost done eating the soup, and a piece of paper drifted to the top. She picked it up and read it. Tsunade, it will take time, but help is on the way. Keep your hope alive. Keep in mind that the hero always appears at the last second. Tsunade felt a glimmer of hope as she read the note repeatedly, learning the words by heart. 5 minutes or so later, the note started to smoke and vanished into thin air. Naruto and Neji stood in a hotel room overlooking the village, and Neji declared, "Mission successful, Naruto." As Naruto put it, "Thanks, Neji." Neji responded, "So have you found any way to save her yet?" After a brief period of silence, Naruto revealed, "Yeah, I'm using what we used to destroy Whirlpool to save Tsunade." "And that is exactly what?" Neji inquired. It would be better if you didn't know." Naruto said. "Sakura would attempt to dissuade me of it, and everyone would label me crazy." Neji smirked as he said, "But has that ever stopped you before?" With a frown, Naruto said, "Yes." Neji shot him a sardonic glance, and Naruto responded defensively, "Once." After Neji shook his head and vanished into the smoke, Naruto hurried out of the hotel room and started to stroll through the streets until he reached the park where he first saw Terra. He then took a seat to appreciate the beauty of the little park. After 20 minutes, he saw Terra and Selen enter the park. Selen hurried to play in the playground, and Terra approached him, sat next to him, and said, "So?" After a brief period of silence that made Terra uneasy, Naruto declared, "It worked." The message was received, and it seems to have been well received. However, I'm not sure how you managed to get that bowl to her with the seal I created. Terra explained, "I told the cook in the Tsuchikage kitchen that I wanted to exact a little retribution on Konoha for his death, and she showed me the bowl. One told her that one had gotten in touch with a seal expert in the village, and they made that modified storage seal, which would release a small, tasteless, and odorless drug into her food, giving her cramps in a bad case of the runs. She was more than delighted to switch out the standard bowl for the modified one." With a nod, Naruto asked Terra, "So have you figured out how to save her?" Naruto replied, "Yeah, thanks to the info you gave me on the village as well as the underground base in the valley outside of the village, I have a plan already in action, and thanks to a few specialized seals no one can detect what is happening there, and they won't until it is too late, and we are already several miles away from here." Terra responded, "And you won't tell me how you're going to do it?" Naruto replied, "No. Just make sure you use the scroll I made for you to store all of yours and Selen's stuff in, because once the ball starts rolling there is no stopping it and no way to turn back around either. Well, I must be going, don't want to become too suspicious." "Uncle, can you carry me?" Selen yelled as he ran over. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto looked down at her before turning to face Terra and requesting, "Uncle." "I told her you were her uncle because I wanted her to trust you in case something happened to me," Terra said, blushing slightly. Naruto prostrated himself and said, "Maybe later, Selen. Uncle has some things he needs to do, but once I am done with everything I need to do over the next few days, I will carry you until you tell me to put you down, okay?" As she ran back to play, Selen said, "Okay, Uncle Foxy." Without turning to face Terra, Naruto remarked, "And nothing is going to happen to you." As she watched him go and then watched her daughter play, Terra thought, "But you also have to rescue her, so if it comes down to me and her, at least Selen will be taken care of." There are 5 days left before the deadline. A Junin and 2 other Junins approached the platform, kicked the feet of a man who was nailing on it underneath, and said, "Oi, what you doing?" The man felt around for the box of nails and said, "Hey, can you hand me the box of nails? I can't reach it." The Junin replied, "No, I will not until you tell me what you're doing. No one is supposed to be messing with this stage." "Well, nobody told me about that before. I thought this was a public stage too for the people of Iwa and for the Tsuchikage to make important announcements," the man said, revealing Naruto without any disguise other than a pair of coveralls. "You're right about what this stage is for, but only those authorized by the Tsuchikage may use it now. What were you doing?" said the Junin, who was the only one to speak. "You rockheads are really dumb fucks. You know that. Look at this stage and tell me what is wrong here," Naruto said after getting to his feet and dusting his hands. The first's left-hand Junin inquired, "What did you say, buddy?" Naruto replied, "I said you were dumb fucks, you can't even tell that I have already replaced half the stage with new boards as well as properly securing it and treating the wood, so what is wrong with the half I haven't touched does not happen again." The stage was rotting and was unleveled with several boards that were loose from people setting heavy objects on them. "Hold it, Baris, now who are you?" the first Junin said, grabbing the second one while glancing at Naruto. Naruto replied, "Naruto, Namikaze Naruto, I'm a freelance ninja as well as handyman. I do odd and end jobs to make enough money to pay for my food and bedding until I get tired or thrown out and then I find a new place to go. Stupid Konoha fuckers, I can't believe that fucking Shodaimes threw me out after I saved his grandson's life." The three men's eyes widened, and they all held kunais at Naruto's neck. Naruto snorted and said, "Please kiddies, you're about 20 years too young to challenge me in a fight." The wind chakra then abruptly cut all three kunais in half, and Naruto sat back against the stage, saying, "Now if you don't mind, I'm trying to drum up some business by displaying my services to the people of Iwa." He then grabbed the hammer and pulled up the legs of his pants before he sat back down and started to climb back under the stage. "What the fuck?" was the expression on the faces of all three Junin when they heard Naruto hammering once more. Two of them grabbed his feet and pulled him out from beneath the stage, while the third one took a sword from his back and held it at Naruto's neck, saying, "Don't try that again, buddy. Now you and us are going to see the Tsuchikage, and if you're lucky you might spend the rest of your life in prison." Naruto inquired, "On what charge? Pissing in your cereal or something?" "Murder of 2 Iwa shinobi," said the Junin brandishing the sword. "What Iwa shinobi? I haven't done shit to any of your people," Naruto said, blinking. The Junin responded, "Do you deny that you killed 2 Iwa nin when you saved the Shodaimes' grandson?" Naruto paused for a moment and replied, I did kill 2 men while the third one ran away pissing his pants, but I don't remember any of them having any Iwa headbands, and I only killed those 2 in self-defense after they tried to kill me for telling the one guy he wasn't going to rape that girl. He already had his pants undone and the girl was on the ground holding her face and her teammates were passed out with injuries. Sick bastard deserved to die. Especially when he talked about what he did to his own genin teammate. I can't believe the bastard joked about maybe getting another sex slave for having his fun if he knocked her up." Twisting Naruto's leg, the irascible Junin yelled, "Shut up, you liar. Both those men were honorable Iwa shinobi, you murderer." "Suppose I believe you, would you be willing to tell the Tsuchikage what you just told me?" asked the person brandishing the sword. Naruto replied, "Of course, like I said, I came here looking for work, not to play footsie." "What are you thinking, Ryu? You can't believe his story," said the person who had Naruto's leg twisted. Ryu replied, "Release his legs, he won't go anywhere for now but to see the Tsuchikage, and I for one don't feel like carrying him, so let him walk, but don't try anything funny or I will kill you. Do you understand me?" The three turned to face another Naruto who approached with a lunch bag and a bottle of water as the one they had been speaking to turned to Mud. The voice behind them said, "Oh, I understand, but could you please refrain from hurting my clones, they're a bitch to make." The three men were taken by surprise after being duped by a Mud clone. Ryu replied, "Well, did you hear what your clone said?" Naruto replied, "Only the last part about playing footsie. What can I do for you gentlemen?" Ryu replied, "We want you to come to see the Tsuchikage for questioning." "All right, as long as I can have my lunch," Naruto shrugged. Ryu gestured to the Tsuchikage tower and said, "That's fine, please." All three men followed Naruto as he started to walk while sipping his water, but as he entered the tower, he felt one of them hurling ki at him, and he reasoned that making people pissed has to be a gift. He was soon led to a pair of stone doors on the 4th floor, where Ryu knocked a short while later. The door opened, and Ryu entered, saying, "Come." The other 2 men entered behind Naruto and shut the door after him. "Yes, Ryu. What are you here for and who are these gentlemen?" the Tsuchikage inquired. "This man is," Ryu said before he could finish. Naruto said, "Named Naruto Namikaze, freelance ninja and handyman at your service." Ryu gave him a fierce look, and the Tsuchikage turned to face Ryu. Anticipating an explanation, Ryu replied, "As I was saying, Naruto here claims he was the one who saved the grandson of the Hokage." With wide eyes, the Tsuchikage turned to face Naruto and questioned, "So this is the man who killed 2 of my men?" Naruto took a breath and said, "First off, the bastards didn't have any ID to tell who they were with, and I only killed them in self-defense after I stopped one from raping a little genin girl. With the way the guy talked, it sounds like he was rewarded for doing it in the past. I don't have many things that piss me off, but that is one of them." The Tsuchikage was thinking, "That little bastard, I warned him after he attacked Terra, but since her father sold her to him I couldn't do shit about it." He then replied, "I see, so tell me, what are you doing here?" With a gesture toward the chair, Naruto said, I was taking a lunch break and left a clone to continue to work when these three showed up. When Ryu noticed the Tsuchikage's curious look, he remarked, Naruto here was working on the announcement stage. Naruto, who was already seated, replied, yeah, that thing was a death trap waiting to happen. The foundation on it was worn out. The boards were never weather treated to make them last longer, and some of the support beams and flooring on it are weakened from people overweighing it. Odds are the next time more than 4 people stand on it the whole stage would have fallen to the ground, as he took out a ham sandwich bites. The Tsuchikage replied, you don't seem very scared for someone I could kill for what you did to my men no matter what the reason. Naruto continued, I don't see any reason to be scared personally. The three behind me are about as strong as Orochimaru, Jiraiya Oil and Tsunade Senju are, and I kicked all 3 of their asses together before I kicked Uchiha Madara ass. I never would have guessed the damn Shodaimes Hokage would have got pissed at me for it and told me to leave and not come back, even after I saved his grandson's ass, as he drank his water. Leaning back in his chair, the Tsuchikage gazed at Naruto and remarked, that's some pretty big claim you have there. Naruto replied, it's true. You could ask the little princess you're holding about it. I bet she's still pissed at me for beating her. According to the Tsuchikage, and you know I have her how? Snorts Naruto as he says, don't insult me Tsuchikage, everyone in your country knows you got her people talk, especially when they want justice for whoever is attacking some of the smaller villages. Barus responded, and how do we know you're not here to try and rescue her? Naruto glanced back and inquired, did your mother drop you on your head as a baby? First off, if I was here to rescue the little princess I would be avoid drawing attention to myself. Next I would be trying to find weaknesses in your village security to learn where exactly she was being held. What condition she is in so I would know if she was able to use her ninja training or have to sneak her out as a civilian before you discovered she was gone, and then I would be staying away from people who would put the mission to rescue her in danger, meaning everyone of Chunin or higher, and yet I am here in the damn cage office eating my lunch without a care in the world because frankly, I could give a rat's ass about the little princess personally. The first thing she needs a good fucking to get rid of that high and mighty attitude she has, but that's my opinion. All 3 of you leave us. I would like to speak with Namikaze alone for a few minutes, the Tsuchikage said. Before leaving, Barus gave Naruto a shady glance, and the Tsuchikage remarked, you forgot to mention you could try and gain my trust to get close to her also. All 3 bowed. Naruto replied, true, but then that idiot would have been more accusing than he already was. I still don't understand what his problem was. We're all ninja, we die on mission all the time, it's a part of life. Very true, you said you're a freelance ninja, the Tsuchikage remarked. Naruto replied, yeah, my home village was destroyed a few years back by a group calling themselves Akatsuki. As far as I know I am the only known survivor, and that was because I was away on a training mission with my godfather before he passed away. Akatsuki? The Tsuchikage inquired, I never heard of them. Naruto replied, not surprising, I heard they're all dead now. They wore black cloaks with red clouds and were made up of S-rank missing nins. I heard they died by the poison they used on my village to poison the water supply and kill all the people in it. And what was the name of your village? Inquired the Tsuchikage. According to Naruto, Otto in Spring Country. According to the Tsuchikage, never heard of it. Naruto folded his paper bag and put it in the trash can. He said, it was a small country near Snow Country. A volcano kept the country warm enough to keep us from being turned into popsicles like Snow Country did. We were less than 20 miles wide, so you can see how it would be easy to miss us, especially since everyone thinks Snow Country is the last island that far north. So why were you working on the stage? Inquired the Tsuchikage. Naruto continued. 3 reasons actually. The first was advertisement to the civilians in your village. When they see my work they might hire me. The second was so I might be able to impress you and maybe get a few D-rank missions around the village. The third was to impress the ladies, women like men who have a body like mine, and giving them a show might get me some company tonight. With a grin on his face, the Tsuchikage responded, why D-rank mission? Surely if you're as strong as you claim to be then you could go on higher rank missions. Naruto said, I try to only kill in self-defense or protection. I never do anything that might make it seem as if I am joining one village over another. That way I always have a chance for future employment once you decide that I have used up my usefulness, or I do something to tick off a local clan head and you tired of their bitching and ask me to leave. You won't kill me because I see things and hear things your men won't, and I have skills that your men don't that someday you will hope to sway in favor of your village. I've been a freelance most my life. I've been offered things from the hand of a village leader's daughter to some of their most secret jutsu to join them, as well as little gifts of all kinds the next time I am around to swing by, so maybe I might join. That's why I am not scared. You're interested in knowing what I know, and when you ask the three from earlier as well as the guy who ran away pissing his pants about my skills, you will know I could cause a lot of damage before you took me out, and that is something you can't afford right now, especially with all the villages preparing for war," with a smirk on his face. "What's to stop me from killing you before you have a chance to leave this office?" asked the unimpressed Tsuchikage. Naruto glanced out of the window and replied, "Besides the fact the so-called trash I threw in your trash can a few minutes ago has an exploding tag of my own design drawn on it, and should my chakra flare for a moment it would blow everything in this building and 4 square blocks to hell and back, nothing much." After a few tense moments, the Tsuchikage looked directly into Naruto's eyes and said, "Don't get too cocky, kid, I could have killed you at any moment." Naruto said, "Luckily I know you're not a stupid man and try to attack me or you wouldn't be cage of your village, so the tag is currently in a feedback loop that will destroy itself right about," as the tag exploded in a small puff of smoke. Naruto replied, "Then we both would have seen each other in hell, check between your legs." A spike of sand appeared an inch in front of the Tsuchikage's crotch, and he looked down, wide-eyed. Naruto replied, "So, you want to hire me officially to finish that stage and do a few D-rank missions, or you mind if I do freelance around the village for civilians?" Naruto could tell the Tsuchikage was thinking deeply because he was silent for a while. "What are you after? There's more to you than meets the eye, and nobody stays a freelancer that long without a reason," he said. After a brief period of silence, Naruto said, "Okay, you have 2 things I want." According to the Tsuchikage, and that would be. Naruto replied, "It will cost you. You want to know why I am really here and why I was around Konoha. To get that answer you have to agree to give me something first, no matter if you're willing to give me what I am really after or not. You agree to that, then I will tell you why I am really here." "And what if I don't agree with what you want?" inquired the Tsuchikage. Naruto replied, "Then you have to worry about why I am here and what to do about me." "Then what is it you want as the gift you want from me?" the Tsuchikage asked. Naruto stated, "I want to be the one to kill the princess when it comes time. I want the last thing she sees is my eyes before she dies, and to know that I keep my promises, and I told her I would be the one to kill her." "Why do you want her dead?" the Tsuchikage inquired. Naruto replied, "Because the bitch took something from me, something very important, and destroyed it to get her revenge for me humiliating her during the match I had with her team in Madara." According to the Tsuchikage, and that would be. Naruto stated, "A scroll of medical jutsu. The jutsu were not that important, but it belonged to a friend of mine named Sakura. Before she died, it was all I have left of her from my home village. The princess stole it and from me while I was packing my things to leave her village, but I didn't know it until I was already away from the village and was going through my pack, and I found a note she left me bragging about it." "Very well, I will agree to let you be the one to kill her. Now what are you after?" the Tsuchikage said, putting his fingers together. "I want your Biju, the Gobi, and the Yanbi," declared Naruto. With wide eyes, the Tsuchikage questioned, "What do you want them for?" As vines grew out of the floor, Naruto grinned and remarked, "I may have been kicked out of Konoha, but not before I learned what I went there for." The Tsuchikage briefly became defensive and remarked, "You're a Senju." Naruto replied, "No, but I did learn the final stage on how to manipulate plants, and I plan to use this power to destroy each of the Biju. Just like my father did when he killed the Kyuubi, I know where each of the remaining Biju are, and I plan to hunt them down and destroy them all." "You're insane," said the Tsuchikage. Naruto said, "No, just emotionally motivated. The Kyuubi caused the deaths of my mother and father the day I was born. My village blamed me for most of the deaths the demon caused because my father was delivering me instead of killing the Kyuubi. Our village had a jutsu that destroys the very soul of anything, but at the cost of the user's life. I know this jutsu, and I have spent years gathering information on the Biju and learning how to capture them, so that way I can take all 8 of them out at the same time to avenge my parents, and so that way no one else will ever have to feel the pain caused by a demon attacking their home. Then if you give the demons willingly to me, then I am willing to give you a copy of a scroll with over 1000 jutsu that I have been collecting my entire life that will open the moment I die. Think about it. Raiden, Doten, Futon, Suiten, Kaden, non-elemental, and a few sub-elements. Which would you rather have? 2 demons that might someday break free and destroy your village, or jutsu that you can have all your ninja learn to make them stronger than ever? How can I be sure that you even have such a scroll?" inquired the Tsuchikage. "This is a sample scroll I made for negotiations. It has all 1000 jutsu, but I doubt you will be able to memorize more than 10 at most if your luck catch." Naruto smirked and took out a scroll, saying, "I was prepared for that. You got 20 seconds after this scroll is open to look at the content before it will destroy itself." After taking a deep breath, the Tsuchikage opened the sealed scroll and quickly scanned it. His eyes were wide as the scroll destroyed itself, and he turned to face Naruto and inquired, How long do you think it will take you to complete your goal to destroy the Biju? Naruto replied, less than 5 years, not quick enough for you to train your men for the war that is about to start, but it will help you afterwards. I will give you my answer in 5 days, the day of execution, the Tsuchikage declared. Naruto turned and left the office after saying, very well, until then I trust that your men won't bother me. I feel like some company tonight, so I think I will see what I can find. I will finish the stage for free. The Tsuchikage asked, so what do you think? After he had left. She said, I questioned the girl and she claims he gave her that scroll with medical jutsu, not that she stole it, but she seemed desperate and angry. A female ninja with a bee flying into her sleeves materialized in the room's corner. The Tsuchikage continued, perhaps it is because he was telling the truth and she wants to make it seem like he is not what he claims, so we will think of him as an enemy, or he is an enemy. For now I don't know for sure, but I will see where he really lies the day of the execution. Have him shadowed by Boulder, but do not engage him. I want to see what he is up to. The woman gives a nod and swiftly walks away as he stomped a puddle in the ground and continued to walk through the village. Naruto grinned and thought, yes Tsuchikage, have your men follow me around and see what I am doing while your eyes are diverted toward me and protecting the Biju. My real reason here will go undetected. In the cell with Tsunade, she thought, that little bastard, he said I stole that scroll and Sakura gave it to me. He is only using me to get the damn demons. I can't believe he is here and using me like this. Hopefully whoever is here to rescue me lets me kill that blonde bastard. The following few days passed quickly as Naruto went about the village performing menial tasks and making out with a few women, but never going to bed. The day of the execution finally came. Naruto and 6 Junin of Iwa were standing on the new platform when he smirked and thought, it's showtime. He saw Tsunade approaching the platform with the Tsuchikage at her side. Her hands in front of her, he asked, hello princess, are you ready to die or are you waiting for a hero to show up at the last minute? As her eyes continued to glare at him. After spitting in his face, Tsunade declared, I will kill you. As he grabbed the ropes that had her hands tied and dragged her over, Naruto put her arms around a metal bar that ran through the log that he had tied her hands behind. He then turned to face the Tsuchikage and stepped back, saying, so, have you made your decision? The crowd gasped several times as Naruto punched Tsunade in the stomach, causing her to double over in pain. The Tsuchikage responded, yes, I won't agree to hand over what you wanted. Is too big of a risk should you fail in your goal and other villages use theirs against us. Very well, but know this, I will claim them someday. Shall we proceed? Naruto nods. The Tsuchikage walked over and said, people of Iwa, today we are gathered here to watch what happens to those who mess with our country. We have here Tsunade Senju, granddaughter of the Shodaimes Hokage of Konoha. When the crowd booed Konoha's name, Naruto shook his head and expressed the opinion that someone really needs to do some PR for Konoha. This here is Naruto Namikaze. He will be the one who will carry out the execution, the Tsuchikage said, turning around. Naruto turned to face Tsunade, smirking, and said, told you, the last thing you saw would be my face. Tsunade's eyes were wide with fear as she started to scan the clearing. Liar, you never said that and I never stole that scroll, yelled Tsunade. Naruto turned to face the Tsuchikage and said, with your permission. As Naruto observed how the other ninja on stage were prepared in case he betrayed them, the Tsuchikage nodded. After completing his hand sign making, Naruto said, goodbye Hyouden. Eternal sleep no jutsu. He said, you don't know how much I have wanted to do this Tsunade. They say that when a person dies they see their life flash before their eyes before darkness consumes them. I wonder if darkness were to consume you first, would your life flash before your eyes? As the wind gradually increased in speed, snow started to fall throughout the village. Tsunade screamed, no, as the ice completely covered her, turning her into a 7-foot-tall diamond of ice. As he knocked on the ice a few times with his hand, he formed a Rasengan and slammed it into the ice, shattering it into millions of pieces as mist covered with the release of the air inside the ice. This shocked everyone, and Naruto said, and so she is dead, frozen solid. There were only tiny ice chunks, some of which were red, when the fog cleared. As the crowd parted to make room for him, Naruto started to leave, saying, that was only a fraction of what I can do, wait until I come for those. He then vanished into a cloud of smoke. As the crowd started to disperse, the Tsuchikage glanced around before focusing on the ice for a few moments. He picked up one of the red chunks, examined it carefully, and rubbed it between his fingers before yelling, all ninja alert. Tsunade Senju is still alive and has escaped. We were tricked. Begin searching for her immediately. A brown-haired, brown-eyed man named Kabuto entered a house in the middle of town. As the ninja were starting their search for Tsunade, he closed the door and asked, well, while surveying the house. An exclamation of, Uncle Naruto, as Kabuto's smoke-covered form materialized. Naruto emerged and apprehended Selen, who had dashed into the room. When Tara entered, she inquired, "Did it work?" "Yeah, now are you ready to go?" said Naruto. Tara asks, "What should we do now?" while nodding. Naruto replied, Now you need to take 3 steps to the right before you get hurt." As the floor she was standing on abruptly collapsed, Tara blinked and questioned, "Huh?" As she struggled to break free, Selen cried out, "Mommy." She was held tightly by Naruto, who said, "Relax Selen, she is fine, right Tara?" Tara screamed, "What the hell happened?" as her voice reverberated. After approaching the now 5-foot wide hole in the floor, Naruto leapt down about 20 feet and noticed Tara massaging her ass. As he put Selen down, Naruto remarked, "Watch that first step, it's a doozy." Selen then ran to Tara and yelled, "Mommy." Reaching out to embrace her, Tara muttered, "Shush, it's okay dear, I am alright, but what happened?" Naruto asked, "So Haku, did it work?" after noticing that Tsunade was still frozen to the right. Haku responded, "Yes, Naruto, I managed to trap her in a block of ice, and after you destroyed her with the Rasengan, I was able to replace her with the ice and frozen red paint you had obtained. I then just made an ice slide to bring her here in the tunnels you made underground." With a nod, Naruto inquired, "Will you unfreeze her now?" Naruto said, "Sorry about that, Haim, but I had to make you believe that I was betraying you in order to get you out of there without killing anyone." Haku nodded and stuck his tails to Tsunade's frozen form, causing the ice to melt and the sound of Tsunade chattering teeth to be heard. Tsunade glared at him as she covered her chest with her arms to try to get warm as the ice melted off her feet before she could respond. Selen rushed over and greeted her as, "Hello Popsicle Lady. Are you the woman Naruto has been discussing freeing with your uncle and mother?" Tsunade asked in a chattering voice, "Who are they and why are you here?" After glancing at Selen, Tara, and Naruto, "Where is the rescue squad?" "Do you know what Black Ops is, Tsunade?" Naruto asked, casting a sorrowful glance at her. Tsunade's eyes widened for a second, then she closed them and said, "I understand, so why did you come here?" she asked, continuing to talk. "Your family asked me to save you," Naruto said. "As much as I would like to tell you more, we must move because your grandfather had to consider the village as a whole, not just his own feelings. They will soon begin conducting house-by-house searches, so we must act quickly to avoid our deaths. Do you need me to carry you, or are you able to move?" Tsunade gave him a fierce look and uttered, "No, I can walk." With a nod, Naruto said, "Come here, Selen. In order for us to leave here more quickly, I must carry you." Upon approaching, Selen exclaims, "Piggyback Uncle Naruto." He allowed her to climb on his back and said, "Listen, follow me no matter what and don't fall behind." Naruto said, "Alright. I'll get both of you out of here. Thank you for the assistance, Haku." After Haku nods and ascends into the smoke, Naruto soon begins to run down a tunnel, and Tara hurls her jacket at Tsunade, saying, "Come on." She started running after Naruto, saying, "We better hurry, he's a stamina freak." As she surveyed her surroundings, Tsunade reflected, "Who would have ever thought I would escape from Iwa underground?" About half an hour later, they reached a cliff, and Tsunade scoffed at Naruto and questioned, "What now, fearless leader?" "Believe it or not, these suits are designed to allow you to breathe underwater for up to 6 hours without a break," Naruto said, pulling out a scroll and opening it. He then looked through it, sent a chakra pulse into one of the seals inside, and several suits with glass helmets emerged. "Selen, don't be afraid and hold on to me. I'll have to carry you in your suit. Both of you, Tara and Tsunade, will attach the rope to your suit's belt loop and then connect it to me. A few Kage Bunshin helped me map this out and confirm that the information I had was accurate. About 2 miles downstream, this river empties into the Uzumaki River. Once we arrive, we will proceed south along the river until we reach Whirlpool. You have a suppression seal on you, which I will have to remove once we are safe, so don't try to use any jutsu, Tsunade." According to Tsunade, "I'm not putting that thing on." "Then stay here and die, princess," Naruto said, shaking his head as he started to assist Selen in hers. "Tara and her daughter helped me save you from execution," he asked. "Are you okay, Selen?" as he fastened the final buckle on Selen's suit. "If you can't show some faith in us, then you can go to hell." "Yeah, uncle," Selen replied. "Can we actually breathe underwater? This is awesome." "Yes, we can," Naruto replied. "Tara, do you need any assistance?" "The zipper is stuck in the back," Tara said. "After putting the suit on, I am unable to make it go all the way up." After Naruto zipped it up and walked behind her, she said, "Thanks." "Shit, we have to hurry," Naruto said, tensing up and nodding. "Someone just broke in at your house after I left a Kage Bunshin there. Choose, Tsunade, if you wish to survive, come with me." After a brief scowl, Tsunade nodded and hurriedly put it on Naruto, then tied everyone to him, checked all the suits, and walked into the water with Selen in tow. A few minutes after the other two cautiously entered, a number of people arrived at the underground river, staring in all directions, and someone asked, "What should we do?" "Tell the Tsuchikage what we discovered," said another voice. "The rest of you locate them by traveling as far upstream and downstream as you can." Naruto thought, "Good thing I kept the suits my team used when we attacked Water Country," as the four of them in the water saw the people running on the water above them as he took each step, checking on the others every few minutes. He said, "Hopefully the Tsuchikage won't realize how important this river is, because if he does, Whirlpool will fall again. Maybe I might see my mother while we were there." Naruto chuckled as Selen looked around with excitement, thinking, "She is so innocent." The Tsuchikage, who was not amused, asked, "What do you mean that they escaped?" after glancing at the group of ninja in front of him. "According to a Junin, we found that they had a tunnel that led to an underground river in one of our citizens' homes. From the stage platform to the house and from the house to the river, it led all the way." "What citizen?" the Tsuchikage inquired. "I want them delivered here right now." "I regret to inform you, sir, but it was Terakusi," said another Junin. "Both she and her daughter are no longer there." So that is how he knew. The Tsuchikage thought for a moment before asking, "Is there any sign to tell if they left freely or have met with harm?" "It looks like they left, sir," the Junin said. A number of pictures and other objects were absent from the walls. The office door suddenly flew open, revealing a panting Chunin with all eyes on him. He exclaimed, "Sir, someone has broken into both the golem and the gravel bases, sir, and stolen something." Feeling nauseous, the Tsuchikage inquired, "What was stolen?" It was stated by the Chunin that the wooden statues that the Gobi and Yanbi were sealed in, sir. "How were they stolen?" the Tsuchikage asked, collapsing into his chair. "For both items, I tripled the guards. I personally made sure they were there. Tell me how they were taken, because they were in the safest location in the nation." With a gulp, the Chunin said, "Sir, we don't know." As he produced a scroll and gave it to the Tsuchikage, he said, "This is all we found." Tsuchikage read, "The Biju are the incarnates of evil, and I am the light that will shine through the darkness to destroy the evil of the world." In case you're wondering how I got them, the answer is straightforward. After our brief conversation, I simply watched you from a distance to see how you went through security, and then I simply impersonated you to make another inspection of the items, quickly sealing them in a scroll and creating a sand statue of them both. I then had to wait for the right moment to release the jutsu, which attracted the guards' attention to them, giving me more time to escape with the princess. Namikaze Naruto the K's Kami Oni. After smashing the scroll in his hands, the Tsuchikage declared, "I want Naruto Namikaze dead, and I want every ninja in the village to get a picture of him. For the man who brings me his head, I'll pay $1 million. If you can bring him to me alive, I'll give you $2 million. A Junin inquired, "What about Tsunade Senju?" "Forget the girl," said the Tsuchikage. "Right now, she is nothing. Konoha informed me this morning via messenger bird that they would not jeopardize the village's security for a single individual, regardless of who that individual may be. However, that boy is too dangerous to be around. I want his head." The journey through the underground river took 4 hours. Tsunade was the first of the four to remove her helmet as they approached the river's bank, and before Naruto could react, she kicked him in the nuts. Like a bag of potatoes, he fell to the ground and choked out the word, "Why?" Selen was screaming, "Uncle! Uncle, hey you hag, what did you hurt my uncle for?" "Shut it, shrimp," Tsunade said as she turned. "Because he was a fool. I hurt him. We had to go back almost a mile because he got us lost down there." When Tera noticed her daughter's mouth opening, she quickly covered it and said, "Be kind, sweetheart." Tsunade is simply upset about what transpired. As if nothing had happened, Naruto got back up after Tsunade glared at Tera and remarked, "Don't get all PMS, Tsunade." Tsunade cried out in a hurry, "I'm not PM Sing." "Now what did my sensei say to do about a woman who was in this situation?" Naruto said, placing a finger to his chin. When Tsunade drew back her fist and attempted to strike him in the face, Naruto smirked, slipped past her defenses, and came up to kiss her as his arm went around her back and he sent a chakra pulse to a pressure point there. Tsunade, whose eyes were wide open from what had happened, felt a surge of pleasure suddenly wash over her body. She blushed in shame as she experienced an orgasm and her legs gave out, ending the kiss. "Ew," Selen said, "that is unpleasant." "Damn," Tera said, tilting her head to the side, observing Tsunade's legs trembling and her eyes flutter. It was clear that the kiss was amazing. Disregarding the mother-daughter duo, Naruto turned to face Tsunade and uttered, "Don't bother me, little girl. With a single touch, I can give you hours of pleasure, or I can cause you to suffer for days. You didn't need to be saved by me. I didn't leave your ass to die back there, even though I could have." In order to deliver that message to you, Terra risked her life and the life of her daughter. She also provided me with information that would help save your village and you when the war broke out. At least you could express gratitude or apologize for being such a bitch. I don't care if you're the daughter of the fucking Fire Lord, even though you might be the granddaughter of the Shodaimes and the grandniece of the Nidaime Hokage. If you behave like a lady, I will treat you as such. If you behave like a bitch, I will treat you as such. Pull yourself together now and stop being a fangirl or a screaming banshee and start acting like a ninja. I'll bend you over my knee and bust your ass for both of those things. Do I express myself clearly? You wouldn't be talking to me like that if I could use my chakra, Tsunade sneered. Tell me, what makes you think I would treat you any differently than I do know if you could use chakra, Naruto said, looking back down after a series of painful memories of Sasuke, Konohamaru, Neji, and Madara flashed through his mind as he looked up at the sky. You believe that using your super strength jutsu, summoning, or medical abilities will cause me to change my mind right away. You know what? It won't. You would like to know why. I've been burned alive, buried alive, tied to a log, thrown into a river, and had someone shove their hand through my chest. I've been stabbed, poisoned, and have broken most of my bones, and that's only the beginning. You led a lavish, sheltered life and believe that everyone should submit to you because you are the princess of Konoha and the granddaughter of the Hokage. I can use my perfect chakra control to boost my taijutsu, which is why I deserve a medal. But guess what? You believe you suffered because you were being held captive in a private cell that only the Tsuchikage himself could enter, he said, holding a kunai. I don't give a fuck about that, and if you want a medal then I can just give you this one right between the ribs. What if they manage to get your foot through the door's bottom? You're a fool if you believe that's what it means to be a prisoner. Don't try to get sympathy here and act all big and bad because you don't have anything to be pitied for. The majority of prisoners don't even get food, and if they were a woman like you, they would be lucky to have clothes at all, let alone their virginity intact. Your brother would have died if it weren't for me, but here's the thing, it cost her to save your brother. Screaming, Terra said, no, don't say it, sorry. If you want to follow me back to Konoha then come on, but we will be taking a long way around so not to get caught by the Tsuchikage, Naruto said, pausing to take a deep breath to calm himself after he heard Terra scream and noticed Selene clutching onto her mother's pants, looking a little scared. You should go southwest of here if you want to attempt to make it alone, but be aware of patrols. As he started to head south, he said, Terra, Selene, you are free to go anywhere you want. When Tsunade heard Naruto speak to her in such a way, she was shocked and asked herself, was his life really that bad? She then turned to face Selene and Terra and concluded, he's right. She inhaled deeply and thanked Selene and Terra, saying, they risked their lives to save me and my own grandfather wrote me off to die. We really didn't do much, Terra said, glancing at Naruto as entertainment. He is actually saving me and my daughter from a very unpleasant existence. As she looked at her daughter and then at Tsunade, who recognized that Terra didn't want to frighten her daughter with the truth, she said, helping you was just a bonus. I can't make it to Konoha from here on my own, Tsunade thought as she nodded and slowly got to her feet. Looking southwest, they will quickly discover our location, and since my chakra is severed, I am limited to using only taijutsu. I'll follow him for the time being. Naruto walked for about 2 hours before realizing that the others were only a few feet behind him. He sniffed the air, looked up at the sky, and scowled, saying, it's going to rain tonight. We need to prepare for the rain because I'm not sure how far the next village is. If you three can find some firewood, I can handle getting us some shelter. It doesn't look like it's going to rain to me. Are you sure it's going to rain? Tsunade asked, glancing up at the sky. He sighed and thought, damn it, how the hell did she ever become a Sannin? She's a fucking idiot. Now that settles it for me. Being in a clan makes you lose 100 IQ points. There is no other reason for all of the clan members being so stupid, he replied. Just get the wood please and we can fight later. I'm not going to put Selene through the torture of being cold in the wilderness because you can't trust the words of a more experienced person than you are. Tsunade was about to say something when Naruto's eyes became as cold as ice. She froze, swallowed, and then nodded and gestured for Terra to follow her, saying, come on, let's find some wood. After waiting until they had left, Naruto sat down on the ground, cross-legged, and placed both of his palms there. He then watched as his chakra gradually slipped out of his body and onto the ground. Tsunade asked, so what's your story? What are you doing with Lord so full of himself? Is he really related to you? As she, Terra, and Selene strolled through the woods after leaving Naruto. Terra replied, no, Naruto is not related to us. As for our story, I would rather tell you privately later. Mommy, I'm tired, Selene said, rubbing her eyes. Terra replied, I know dear, just wait a little bit longer and you can lay down to take a nap, okay? Selene yawns and holds onto her mother's pants leg while nodding. Go ahead and take her back to him and lay her down. I will finish getting the wood, Tsunade said with a sigh. Terra took the little bundle she had gathered and went back to Naruto's location, saying, "Thank you." Tsunade was just a few minutes behind her and snatched up some more wood as fast as she could. When Tsunade entered the clearing where Naruto was, she saw Terra standing there staring, with Selen standing next to her, both of their eyes wide. Tsunade was also taken aback by what had so shocked them. She asked, "What have you done?" as she turned to face a panting Naruto. The four Naruto in the clearing started to make hand signals, touching their hands on the ground as vines sprang up and grabbed a glowing orb in the air. The orb started to pulse as the vines wrapped around it and curved around as the chakra was absorbed into the ground, and the more quickly the glowing orb pulsed, the more a wooden statue rose from the ground, and Naruto said, "Sealing arts. 9 wood dragon sealing." As the ball of chakra was fully absorbed into the statue, the four Naruto who had formed the first branches went up in smoke, and the original Naruto laughed as he fell backwards onto the ground. When Tsunade saw the wooden dragon shrink to the size of her hand, she approached Naruto, who was grinning and had propped himself up on his arms, and he said, "Go ahead, it's harmless." Tsunade inquired, "What was that?" That Tsunade was the Yanbi, the four-tailed Biju. Naruto smirked. "It is currently imprisoned in that idol statue, where it will soon be demolished." Terra said, "But how did you get it?" As Tsunade's eyes widened, "It was imprisoned by the Tsuchikage in one of Iwa's 2 fortresses close to the village. When I had a little talk with the Tsuchikage about letting me be the one to execute Tsunade, I told him the real reason I was there was to get the Yanbi and the Gobi," Naruto said after slowly rising to his feet, falling back down, and then slowly rising again after giggling a little. He tightened security around them and conducted his own inspection. "After I left, when Konoha was first being formed, I had a summon watch him for me, and he told me everything he said, and I then used my special henge to pretend to be him and get both of the demons that were still sealed in the cages that the Shodaimes Hokage used to give them to you. I have the Yanbi imprisoned in a new facility now, which will permanently exterminate the demon." Reaching down, Tsunade took the little idol and said, "I'm not going to give this to you." "It won't matter," Naruto snorted. "The statue will continue to function. Recall how I battled Madara using the nature chakra. The demon chakra is being transformed into the nature chakra by that statue. However, I must sincerely thank Akatsuki. I would never have been able to figure out the secret to permanently eliminating demons without making a sacrifice if Pain hadn't discovered the jutsu to seal them, and I had discovered it after his passing. It looks like Selen has had a busy day. Hopefully, I can get the other 6 without any problems." Both women turned to see Selen sleeping against her mother's leg. Naruto then flashed through hand signals once more, touched the ground, and a wooden house appeared. Startling them both, Naruto then went over, picked Selen up, and said, "Well, what are you waiting for?" as he started to move toward the house. As Terra followed him inside, Tsunade glared at his back. She blinked when something struck her face, then blinked again, thinking, "Damn it, he was right, it is going to rain." It began to sprinkle. A fireplace developed in the center of the room, and furniture protruded from the floor as Naruto and the 3 women strolled around the cabin. "There are 3 bedrooms with beds, and I have some blankets in a scroll that I can use to make covers and bedding," Naruto stated. "Although each bedroom has its own bathroom, none of them has a bathtub or shower. Apologies, however, I can boil some water and have a couple wash bowls so you can at least wash up in a short while. If everyone wants to lie down and sleep, I'll prepare a meal for us. You have the room on the right. Terra Selen can sleep on a second bed that is lower to the floor, protecting her from harm in the event that she falls out of the first one." As he entered the now formed kitchen, he said, "Tsunade, you can take either of the other 2 rooms." However, Tsunade pondered, "I wonder how he made this so quickly." She looked around and saw Naruto take out multiple scrolls and start to unseal things. When she saw the bedding, she went over and took everything and said, "Come on Terra, Selen, let's get Selen bed made so she can lay down." She then proceeded to the room where Naruto had mentioned those 2 could have. "Well, at least she isn't a complete bitch anymore," Naruto said with a small smile. "But why is it that the biggest bitches are always the most dangerous?" he asked, opening a few containers of food, water, and other supplies. After that, he picked up the wood the girls had dropped and placed it in the fire pit. He then patted his pockets and took out a Zippo lighter, which he used to light the fire while grinning sadly and thinking, "Shikamaru." He then took 2 steel rods, walked over to the fire, and pushed them into the wood surrounding the fireplace while channeling chakra into each rod. He then took 4 pots, filled them with water, set them on the rods, and rotated the rods over the fire. Naruto then took a kunai and cleaned it off before chopping up some vegetables, deer meat, and a bag of rice. He then went over and placed everything aside from one pota into a different pot that was filled with water. 10 minutes or so later, Tsunade and Terra returned, and Naruto, seated in a chair, declared, "If you ladies want to freshen up, the first pot there without a lid is for wash water. Now it ought to be sufficiently hot, but the food will be finished in about an hour," he said, putting his head back and closing his eyes. Tsunade inquired, "So what's the plan?" After a few minutes of silence, Naruto remarked, "Well, I suppose we will eat tomorrow before he continues on our journey south into Whirlpool. When we arrive, I was considering sending a group of Kagebunshin to the Bird Country Henge to accompany us. They would then lead a trail through the rain toward the Fire Country while we slipped down into Suna and passed through River Country. The Tsuchikage will be furious because I know he has most likely discovered my node by now. Additionally, the Iwa ninja should patrol this area shortly because they will probably feel the chakra release from me sealing the Biju earlier." "You let the Iwa ninjas know where we were," Tsunade said angrily, her eyes wide as she realized Naruto had done that on purpose to draw the Iwa ninjas. "Why?" She got to her feet. "This isn't my first rodeo, princess," Naruto grinned. "You see, that underground river we came down is probably being checked by the Tsuchikage's men at the moment. He can wipe out Whirlpool Country without a single person dying if he understands how vital that river is. Unbeknownst to you, Whirlpool Country gets its name from the Uzumaki River, which winds through the middle of the entire nation. It is the nation's only river. The Uzumaki royal family rules Whirlpool Country, of which you are supposedly a lost descendant," Tsunade remarked. "Yeah, something like that," Naruto said as Terra's eyes widened. "Anyway, I discovered that Hachibi knew more about my family than I did the bastard, when I was attempting to learn more about my mother and obtained information from another source." Killer Bee continued, "The Uzumaki family has a long tradition of naming the males with reference to the hero Susanoo, and the females are always named one of 8 names. He wouldn't tell me until he finished his rap about Orochimaru. The 8 names are derived from the 8 sisters, 7 of whom were consumed by the Snake, who were to be offered as sacrifices to Yamato no Orochi in exchange for saving her life. The 8th daughter, Kusanada Hime, who was spared by Yamato no Orochi, married Susanoo, the storm god, who had been made mortal as a punishment for an unidentified reason." "Hurry up and tell us what is so important about the river and the Uzumaki family and why you let Iwa know where we are," said Tsunade, growing impatient. With a sigh, Naruto said, "All right, you are unaware that Yamato no Orochi actually slid down the Uzumaki River to reach the castle, where you would annually eat one of the sisters. Susanoo and the Hachibi trapped him in the castle. As you may have heard, Yamato no Orochi killed himself by putting his head through 8 arches. Susanoo then sliced him to pieces and removed the fabled grass-cutter sword from his tail. That's where things aren't quite accurate in actuality. Susanoo's pet Hachibi followed his master here. Hachibi used his 8 tentacles to hold the heads of Yamato no Orochi when he came to eat Kusanada Hime. Susanoo killed 7 of the 8 heads, but before he could kill the 8th, Yamato no Orochi spat out the grass-cutter sword that had been lodged in one of its fangs for countless years, absorbing the snake's poison. The blade killed Susanoo, but he vowed to protect his wife, and since she was stronger than he was, he used his remaining strength to steal Yamato no Orochi's power and give it to Hachibi, making him the new 8-tailed Biju in place of Orochi. He then sealed Yamato no Orochi's soul to the grass-cutter sword. He gave his wife one last present before he passed away. A child, so she would always have a part of him. Hachibi carried his master's body up to follow Yamato, but Orochi came down. He then proceeded to the snake's lair and buried his master there. Using the power he had been given as the new 8-tailed Biju, he created a statue of Susanoo crying for the family he was unable to be with. The Uzumaki River's water is his tears. You now inquired as to what was so crucial. If the Tsuchikage discovers that the Uzumaki River's source is beneath his village, he will dam it up and cause Whirlpool to fall because they cannot survive without water. However, I think the statue does exist, but no human can reach it because of divine power. I'm calling his attention to it. For that reason I do not wish for the residents of Whirlpool to suffer as a result of our actions." Terra replied, "But if his men come here, then won't they hurt the people of Whirlpool?" "No," Naruto said, "I intend to leave a trail that is sufficiently large for them to follow, and I will ensure that enough people witness us leaving the Whirlpool to simply follow the path the Kagebunshin will take. I'm going to do that in any case. We ought to spend no more than an hour in Whirlpool itself. The first hint the Iwa nins will have that we were here is this house we are in." "But what if they get here before we leave?" Tsunade inquired. "According to Naruto, they won't. As you can see, we are only a few miles away from our current location by river. We will still have a significant advantage over them because they will need to cross the mountains that separate Whirlpool from Iwa, which takes 3 days to do so without the use of underwater breathing equipment." "Alright, but suppose you're wrong and they do get here early, what then?" Tsunade scowled. "Then I fight them without killing them," Naruto uttered. Why don't you want to kill them? Terra asked. You made sure that nobody died as part of your plans, after all. With a sigh, Naruto remarked, look, if I kill one person, the Tsuchikage might use that as justification to declare war on the Leaf Village. Believing that I am working for them, he would then have to travel through multiple other nations to reach the Leaf, which would enlist them in the conflict, and soon every nation would be engulfed by it. I don't want to be the one to initiate the conflict. After giving it some thought, Terra nods, and Tsunade snarls, damn it, speaking with you is similar to speaking with my sensei and grandfather. I can't figure out how to default your ideas, no matter what I do in order for me to use chakra. When can we remove this seal? Since you were aware that my chakra was sealed off, I assume you must know how to do it. Not for a couple of days, Naruto stated. As you can see, the seal you're wearing is incredibly strong. The problem is that when it breaks, the seal will release all the chakra it has drained from you in one pulse, and every ninja within 100 miles will feel the pulse. It will take some time to draw the necessary seals to break it, so you don't die. If I were to release your chakra, the Tsuchikage would know exactly where we are, and, rather than sending a small force to follow us, he would send everyone after us. The Iwa Nins who previously felt the Biju chakra will come and check it out, but proceed with caution because it is such a unique feeling. Damn it, Tsunade said, slamming her head against the table. You're worse than your sensei. No one can defeat you in a debate, can they? Nope, Naruto remarked, my tongue is good at what it does. With a flush, Terra muttered, tell me about it. Glaring at Naruto, Tsunade said, please do not tell me about your sex life and hold it. How the hell do you know I was and still am a virgin? Oh, about that, you see it's a secret, Naruto grinned. She screamed, stomped to her room, and slammed the door after Tsunade grabbed the chair she was sitting in and slammed it over his head, shattering it. After Naruto erupted in laughter on the ground, Terra remarked, you do know she is going to kill you, right? No, said Naruto. The old hag was unable to kill me in the past and will not be able to do so now. Tsunade is the kind of girl who enjoys punching first, last, and again before attempting to pinpoint the source of her rage. Tsunade was asleep when Naruto opened her room an hour later, so he placed a bowl on the nightstand next to her bed and left when the door closed. Tsunade opened her eyes, scowled at the food, sat up, and started eating it quietly while thinking, asshole. She smiled a little before her face turned neutral. After waking Selen up and letting her eat, Terra opened a few toys and let her play for a short while before it grew dark and they both fell asleep. After the house was quiet, Naruto sat in the living room, cleaned up the mess, opened a few bottles of sake, closed his eyes, and started drinking, thinking, tomorrow is the day, huh? The sound of a bottle breaking woke Tsunade at around 2 in the morning. She got up and went to the main room, where she saw Naruto at the table with several empty bottles of sake, thinking, damn drunk. She turned to head back to her room when she heard sniffles. She stared at Naruto for a few moments, thinking, is he's crying? As she approached him slowly and he said, you can quit trying to be silent, I am aware that you are present. He looks like shit right now, Tsunade thought as she turned around and sat across from him, frowning and asking, what's your problem? After taking a second sip of sake, Naruto remarked, damn ghost, can't you just leave me alone, can you Bakken? Naruto remarked, why are you making yourself look younger than usual, you old hag? As Tsunade appeared perplexed, you're in your 50s, you can't acknowledge your age even after you're dead, can you? You're intoxicated and I'm not 50-something, Tsunade remarked. I'm 15. With a snort, Naruto said, that's correct, since your brother's death on his first mission, you haven't been 15. After blinking, Tsunade remarked, but my brother didn't die. Naruto sarcastically remarked, that's right, after taking another sip you'll also probably claim that your fiancé copyrighty didn't pass away. Bakken, stop trying to fool me. It makes sense why you're referred to as the legendary sucker when you try to bluff, your poker face is terrible. After raising an eyebrow, Tsunade remarked, you need to get some sleep before I kill you. With excitement, Naruto questioned, really, you would kill me? Do it, please. After that, I can be with everyone else who has passed away. I'm exhausted. Even though I got revenge for you, I saw everyone else die except myself. I held you in my arms as you perished in the village attack. I killed all those men by releasing 4 tails of Kyuubi chakra, but the village never recovered. Everyone who survived today was killed in the war, but the people granted your request that I be your successor and made me the Rokudame Hokage. As he fainted, he said, everyone died. I wasn't strong enough to save them. No one. I couldn't save anyone. Successor, Rokudame Hokage, my death, the village fall, war, 50. What is he talking about? Tsunade blinked as she gazed at him, thinking, it's like he's trying to claim he's from the future or something, but time travel is not possible. He is a walking tragedy, Tsunade said after turning after hearing a sigh and noticing Tara leaning against the wall. She walked over and sat down, saying, "The more I hear about his life, the more I feel sorry for him." As Tsunade put it, "What do you mean?" Tara replied, "I only know a little bit and a lot of what I know is hard to believe, but with my bloodline I know he was telling the truth." "Bloodline? You have a bloodline," Tsunade said, blinking. "Yeah, it's called the Soul Eye," Tara said, nodding. "Although it's not really useful in combat, it allows us to see through genjutsu, henge, shapeshifts, and other similar techniques because it creates a red outline around the person who is not who they seem to be, allowing me to focus on them and see their true appearance. I saw through his shapeshift, as he refers to it. Because of it I am also able to see through your genjutsu." Tara said, "It also makes it where I can tell if someone is lying since I am looking at a person's soul and not actually them." Before Tsunade could respond, when someone tells the truth, their soul remains the same, but when they lie more, their soul grows darker. According to Tsunade, sounds like it would come in handy as an interrogation ability. Tara replied, "And would be something that any village would want to keep around for a long time, and since me and my daughter are the only ones who have it and only Naruto and you know about it." "I see," Tsunade said. "Pale in order to avoid being used as breeding stock, you kept it a secret, huh?" "Yeah," Tara replied. Tsunade responded, "What did you stop him from saying about my brother today?" "One of the men he killed to save your brother was my husband," Tara remarked, letting out a sigh and turning to face the back. Tara laughed and said, "Calm down," as Tsunade's eyes widened and her mind raced with the potential outcomes. "I'm not seeking retribution. In fact, I thanked him for taking out the jerk my father sold me to the bastard after he drugged my food one day when I was on the same genin team and I woke up pregnant. In fact, I am grateful that he killed him because I have been a slave ever since. I didn't want to bring her up in a community that supports men like him rather than acting morally." "I see," Tsunade said, her eyes softening. "You don't want your daughter to know, I assume?" "No," Tara said. "I informed her that her father had perished in an unintentional rock slide." With a nod, Tsunade inquired, "So what were you saying about Naruto here?" "I know everyone he knows is dead," Tara said after pouring herself a little from a bottle. "I am aware that he once had a daughter whose mother was a priestess. I am aware that it was more of a friendship with benefits situation than a romantic one. There should have been a huge commotion over something like that, but I never heard anything about it. Have you?" According to Tsunade, "No, I haven't. But I also know the priestess and the girl are dead," Tara said, nodding. "I don't know who attacked her village, but he is aware of it." Tsunade turned to face Naruto and scowled. "Have you noticed it yet?" Tara asked. "What do you mean?" Tsunade blinked. "Take note of what?" "The rain yesterday," Tara said. "The rain wasn't typical. I saw that his soul appeared to be in pain, and as a result, it started to rain." As he slowly opened his eyes, both women were shocked by Naruto's voice, which startled them both, and said, "It's the real Uzumaki bloodline." His eyes were emotionless and lifeless. After swallowing, Tsunade questioned, "What do you mean? Are you claiming that the rain was your fault?" "Remember my story about how the Uzumaki family came to be," Naruto said, snorting as he snatched up the bottle, chugged it straight, and slammed it on the table. "Recall that the storm god was Susanoo. He also gave Kusanadaheim a gift when he gave her a child. He wanted everyone to see her happy, so he made it so that no one could ever see her cry because the sky would rain for her when she wanted to. Every time I lost someone I cared about, it would rain in some way to cover up my tears, but I was unaware of it until I met the person who revealed the truth about the Uzumaki family's past. It rained while I sobbed at the funeral for the man who was like a grandfather to me. It rained when I learned that my godfather had been killed. It snowed when I witnessed the death of the first friend I had made without any justification. It rained for 3 days as I held the body of one of the few people who ever saw me after my village was destroyed. It rained when I found out about my daughter. It always seems to rain whenever I lose a loved one. That is the real lineage of the Uzumaki family. The kind of storm that an Uzumaki experiences when they lose a loved one depends on their elemental affinities. I only had a wind affinity after Haku passed away, which turned the nearby water into snow by freezing it. I had already mastered water walking by the time of Gigi's death, so I added a tiny water affinity that caused it to rain with a slight breeze every time I lost someone. The storms grew stronger along with my affinities." With a frown, Tsunade asked, "So why did it rain yesterday then?" "I realized what today is," Naruto remarked. "It's the anniversary of the destruction of my village and the deaths of all my loved ones." As he finished the bottle on the table and opened another, he said, "That's why I'm drinking in an attempt to forget." "You're no longer drinking," Tsunade said, grabbing the bottle. "Really?" said Naruto. "What are you going to do to stop me?" "Swung me around." "I will do whatever it takes to stop you," Tsunade said, giving him a fierce look. "In order for us to leave, we need you sober today." According to Naruto, then show me what you got, bitch. Naruto was over Tsunade's knees before he even realized it, and she was actually giving him a hard-ass spanking while he was immobile. He screamed for her to stop for 10 minutes or so, and then she pushed him to the ground and yelled, "Who's the bitch now? I'm an asshole medic even though I can't use chakra. I still have power. You were only able to move your head and mouth because I had drugged your sake." As they both left the room, Terra erupted in laughter and gave Tsunade a high five, while Naruto sighed and reflected, at least no one else saw that. "And this is blackmail," he said as a flash went off in the room and he noticed Tsunade holding a camera. "Terra, thanks for the camera. Rest in peace, Naruto-kun." Damn it, Naruto thought, letting out a sigh. I suppose that's what I got for being a jerk. Naruto was face down on the bed when Tsunade returned to the room, picked him up, and carried him to her room. She then threw him on the bed and shut the door. Naruto remarked, "You know, it's usually more fun if I was facing the other way." After giving him a quick cough after Tsunade's punch to the ribs, she turned him over, took out a kunai, and put it on his crotch. "Now we are going to have a little talk," she said. "I'd like to know what you meant when you called me 50, when you said Kyuubi, and about everything else you said." "Damn it, I can't move." Naruto sighed as he attempted to move as he felt her apply a little pressure to the kunai. He said, "What should I do? That hurt?" "All right, but this is how we're going to do it." Naruto inquired. "I'll respond to a specific question you pose even if my responses appear to be lies. They will be completely accurate. I want specific questions because I don't want to tell you things you don't know." "All right," Tsunade said with a frown. "What is your true name?" Naruto uttered the words, "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze." According to Tsunade, parents, scowling, Naruto uttered, "Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki." Naruto's breath caught as Tsunade applied more pressure to the kunai, and he uttered the words, "It's the truth." "There is no way it could be." Tsunade scowled. "Minato Namikaze is a 6-year-old Konoha prankster." Naruto replied, "Well, I know him as the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha." According to Tsunade, "Bullshit." According to Naruto, "It's true." "Then how are you here?" Tsunade asked with a scowl. "I was sent back in time by the Godem Kazekage to change the future, which I did." Naruto sighed. "Your mother has been inside my head and has seen all of my memories, so she can confirm what I am saying." "So why aren't you a Konoha nin?" Tsunade scowled. "If she had been on your mind, why did my grandfather expel you from the village?" "Because he believes that I am too dangerous to be around, and he is correct," Naruto stated as Tsunade abruptly found herself on the bed and Naruto in the chair. She said, "I am too dangerous." "How did you recover so quickly from my drug?" Tsunade asked with a scowl. "You should wait another 2 hours before moving." "The day I was born a Biju to attack Konoha," Tsunade remarked as Naruto lifted his shirt and started to shape chakra. "The Kyuubi no Kitsune was the Biju in order to seal the Kyuubi into me. My father, the Yondaime Hokage and Jiraiya's apprentice, summoned the Shinigami at the expense of his own life after being poisoned once. The Kyuubi chakra makes me immune to all poisons and drugs. It also helps me survive the effects of both drugs and illnesses. I also get advanced regeneration from it." "How do I know that is not just some fancy seal or something to make your story sound real?" Tsunade asked, biting her lip. With a sigh, Naruto's eyes gradually turned red as the red chakra started to leave his body. He uttered the words, "I am a Jinchuriki, a human sacrifice." Tsunade scooted away, sitting up in shock and a little fear. "Don't worry," Naruto said, lowering his head as he saw this. "You won't have to see me ever again once I get you to Konoha," he said as he stood up and walked away. When Terra and Selen entered the main room the following morning, she noticed Tsunade sitting on one side of the room and Naruto on the other. Naruto appeared depressed, while Tsunade appeared afraid, and she wondered what happened between them. As she ran toward Naruto, Selen yelled, "Hey uncle, can we play today?" In a panicked tone, Tsunade said, "No Selen, stay away from him." With a glance at Tsunade, Selen questioned, "Why?" Turning his back, Naruto said, "She thinks I am too dangerous for you to be around. You should listen to her." Selen, he looked disgusted. "Forget you hag, he's my uncle and he's not dangerous." Selen sneered, looked at Tsunade, pulled down her eyelid with her finger, and stuck out her tongue. She then ran over and hugged Naruto's leg and yelled, "Pick me up please uncle." This made Naruto smile a little. Terra said, "I don't know what your problem is, Tsunade, but I trust Naruto with both mine and Selen's life. In fact, I already told Naruto if anything ever happened to me I want him to watch Selen." Tsunade was about to say something. Tsunade asked, "What are you doing, uncle?" as Naruto leaned down to pick her up and place her on the counter. Naruto replied, "Making us something to eat since we will be leaving shortly. Want to help?" Selen replied, yeah, I help mommy in the kitchen all the time. All right, stir this bowl for me, but not too quickly, I don't want you to spill the stuff inside it, Naruto said, his smile widening. What is this, uncle, we are making? Selen asked, nodding. Naruto stated, no baked cookies, a friend of mine taught me the recipe when I was younger. When Selen started to stir the bowl, Terra grinned and went to take Tsunade by the arm as she was being pulled from the room. Tsunade said, hey. Listen here, you stupid little bitch, I don't know what your problem is with Naruto, but it had better end. He has done nothing to hurt you, your family, your friends, or anybody else. You have been looking for a reason to be angry at him ever since he saved your ass. Now spill it. What has got your panties in a bunch? Terra slammed Tsunade against the wall and slammed her fist next to Tsunade's head. With a scowl, Tsunade remarked, he has a demon sealed in his stomach. And, Terra said. Tsunade questioned, and what, don't you understand how dangerous he is? You are the reason they say blondes are stupid. Listen up, you stupid twit, name one thing he has done that makes him more dangerous than any other ninja, Terra said, snorting and laughing out loud while holding her sides. After scowling, Tsunade remarked, I don't know, I hardly know him. Terra responded, and yet you think he is dangerous? Did he save your life from being executed when your own village washed their hands with you? Tsunade looked at him and said, my village hasn't washed their hands of me. I am sure they sent someone after me and either Naruto stopped them or he was the one they sent. Terra responded, okay, if he's the ones your village sent, then why do they trust him with your life? After giving it some thought, Terra asked, did he save your brother's life? With a downward glance, Tsunade replied, yes. Did he hurt you in any way? Inquired Terra. Yes, he did, but, Tsunade said, starting to consider the situation, but he was supposed to. It was a test and I failed. He did save me and Grandpa could have chosen the village over me, but if he did, then what does that mean for me now? Terra noticed that Tsunade was starting to think and replied, now before you go into too much thought, I have one more thing for you to think about. Naruto told you the truth at the table and I told you the truth. Whatever was said between you both after I went back to sleep upset you both, so tell me. Was it worth hurting him like you, or for whatever reason you're pissed off at him for? Do you really think he is a demon, or are you just a spoiled little bitch who can't care for others? Make up your mind, because whatever it is that happened between you both is killing him inside right now, and if you ever think of telling my daughter to stay away from him again, I will kill you. As she left the space at the door, Tsunade trembled when she heard the door. Believed. Am I really wrong here? Grandfather knows all about demons. He told me stories about how him and great uncle both met demons when they were younger and what they were like. Does having a demon sealed inside of a person make them a demon? Rewind. Sarutobi looked down at Tsunade and her teammates as they sat on the ground and said, now, we are going to discuss sealing. Now, sealing is an important aspect of being a ninja. It allows for many different things, but the most common is for storage of items for later use. Now look at this apple. I will seal this apple into this scroll that I have already made. He demonstrated sealing by saying, now as you can see the scroll did not become the apple, and then he unsealed the apple, saying, and the apple did not become the scroll. He took a bite of the apple, smiled after swallowing it, and asked, any questions? Finish the flashback. Tsunade thought, but does that apply in this case also? Is Naruto just a scroll? As she began to feel nauseous, she collapsed to the floor, drew her knees to her chest, and started to reflect. After 20 minutes, there was a knock on the door, and Terra answered it, saying, we're leaving in 10 minutes, get ready. After getting ready and making one final trip to the bathroom, Tsunade walked out and asked, where is Naruto? As she noticed Terra and Selen waiting at the door. Terra picked up Selen and left the room, saying, outside. Tsunade trailed behind and was taken aback to see a wooden carriage with Naruto standing by the door. He opened it, seated Selen first, then extended his hand for Terra to climb in a neutral voice. He turned and said, you coming? As he approached the front of the carriage. Okay. How are we going to go anywhere in this without something? Tsunade asked as she climbed in, blinking and thinking, he could have helped me, and also. She was interrupted when the carriage started to move. Naruto was in front of her, pushing the cart with 2 poles attached, when she peered out the window. With a frown, she sat down again, thinking, well, at least we don't have to walk. After 7 hours, the carriage came to a stop and the side door opened. Naruto, who was sweating profusely, said, all right, you can all come out to rest and stretch your legs. With a small laugh, Tsunade remarked, and to let you rest. With lifeless eyes, Naruto walked away from her and remarked, but demons don't need to rest, do they? When she felt guilt rise in her chest and felt Terra push past her roughly, Tsunade closed her eyes and turned to face Terra, who was glaring at her. Tsunade said, look Naruto, as she walked over to where Naruto was drinking some water from the river after looking down and swallowing a lump in her throat. He plunged his head into the river, pulled it up a few seconds later, and said, "We leave in 5 minutes." Naruto interrupted her, saying, "Save it, believe what you wanted doesn't matter anymore. Once I get you back to Konoha I will leave and you won't ever have to worry about seeing my scary face ever again." When she heard a whisper on the wind, Tsunade sighed and watched him go, saying, "Don't deny the world the sun because it can't live without the light." What was that and what did it mean? Tsunade asked herself as she surveyed her surroundings. "Okay everyone, get back in the carriage, I want to make whirlpool before dark," Naruto said as he emerged from the woods a short while later. Terra replied, "But you need to rest Naruto, if you don't you're going to die of exhaustion." After placing Selen in the carriage, Naruto reclaimed the wooden handles and remarked, "Then maybe everyone will be happy." He looked around after being struck in the back of the head by a rock and asked himself, "What the hell? Where did that rock come from?" "Fine, if you don't want to ride then walk," he said as he started to pull the carriage with Selen inside after a brief pause during which he noticed that both Terra and Tsunade were staring at him. Terra scowled and entered with her daughter, who was munching on the cookies she had assisted in making. Tsunade turned to face Naruto and shook her head before starting to follow him. When Naruto noticed this, he quickened his steps and soon found himself dragging the carriage at a light jog. Tsunade quickly discovered that she was unable to use chakra to keep up and had to either jump into the carriage or risk being abandoned. As she entered, she noticed Terra scowling at Tsunade while Selen played with a few toys. Tsunade replied, "Damn it, I tried to tell him I am sorry, he won't listen to me." "Then make him listen," Terra said. Then Tsunade said, "How?" Terra replied, "Figure it out, and soon I don't know how strong he is but sooner or later he is going to reach his limit and destroy himself at this pace." With a sigh, Tsunade settled into the seats and gazed thoughtfully out the window. Naruto was thinking as he drove the shopping cart, "Save your words Tsunade, I let you get close because I thought you would be better than Bakken was, but I was wrong, you're nothing like here, I won't be hurt again." When Naruto stepped into a gopher hole, it was almost dark, and he was still pulling the carriage. He screamed, "Ah!" as his ankle snapped, causing him to fall to the ground and grab it. The cart rolled over his position, causing him to quickly lie on the ground. When Tsunade and Terra jumped out of the cart as it came to a stop, they saw Naruto clutching his ankle to the ground. Tsunade approached him and said, "Let me see your foot." "No, it's fine," Naruto snarled as he got to his feet and attempted to walk, his face changing with pain each time he placed weight on that foot. Terra replied, "Naruto, let her look at it please, maybe she can help." As he limped toward the front of the carriage, Naruto uttered the words, "No, I don't need help from the likes of her." Tsunade asked, "What's that supposed to mean?" "People like me," while biting her lip. When Naruto turned and started to speak, he was hurled 30 feet into a tree, shattering it in two. He moaned and heard an irate voice say, "You know she's not like that Baka, so drop the act, she's not like the villagers were." The two-tailed red fox that had just struck Naruto with its tail was confronted by Terra, who brandished a kunai and questioned, "Who are you and why did you attack him?" With a blink, Tsunade said, "Sakura, is that you?" In response, Sakura said, "Yes, Tsunade-sama." "Why did you hit me, Sakura-chan?" moaned Naruto. Sakura slowly lowered her weapon and watched to see what was happening after Terra realized Naruto knew her. Soon, Sakura was engulfed in smoke and replaced with her human form. This shocked everyone and she stated, "Because it seems to be the only way to knock any damn sense into you, Baka. I came to check on you and I saw you were trying to drown yourself in sake last night and I was going to say something when Tsunade-sama and this lady here came and talked to you. I also heard what was said when Tsunade-sama took you to her room and I know it hurts that nobody believes you and I know how it hurts you to see people get scared of you because of Kyuubi, but you're not him. Hell, you don't even have him in you anymore. Remember, all you have is a little bit of his chakra. Inari-sama took him out of you, remember?" Sakura went on to say, "And Tsunade-sama tried to tell you she's sorry," and, as Tsunade felt her stomach drop. "Yeah, like I haven't heard that one before," Naruto said, squirming in agony, as Sakura slammed her fist into his head once more and sent him flying through another tree. "Yeah, like the doctor who put poison in my bottle when I was an infant after I was attacked by villagers and he said sorry for putting the wrong medicine in my bottle, or like the time people burned my apartment building to the ground when they claimed they thought it was an abandoned building." "Sakura, are you okay? Damn it, Sakura, you didn't use that jutsu, did you?" Naruto moaned as he struggled to stand up and glared at Sakura, who was huffing and had fallen to her knees, covered in smoke. After a moment of reflection, he limped over to her and collected her in her fox form. Sakura was coughing when she replied, Yeah, I did. I had to. You wouldn't listen to anyone, and I won't deny the world the sun. I won't let you become the darkness like him. But Sakura, you know how dangerous that is. Even I have to be careful with it. Why did you do it? Said Naruto, his eyes welling with tears. Sakura replied, because Tsunade-sama deserves a chance to see the sun. Naruto nodded his head and replied, she's not worth it. She's not your sensei, and she's not the woman I cared for. Why did you put your life in danger for her? Sakura grinned and said, because you're a baka. Our past is over, Naruto. You changed it so the world won't be destroyed like ours was. I know how much pain you and you're like a brother to me, and like any good sister I have to look out for you. Tsunade-sama is just naive right now. She hasn't experienced the heartache and the pain that we have. She's still innocent in the ways of the world. Don't become like him, Naruto. Become the hero of Wave again. Become the Rainbow Warrior in Spring Country. Remember who you are. Your Naruto Uzumaki, the #1 hyperactive knucklehead surprise ninja. Remember your ninja way. Your Nindo. Remember where true strength comes from. Naruto replied, but I don't have anything precious to me anymore. It was all destroyed and taken from me. Sakura was coughing and replied, no it hasn't, Naruto. You've gained new precious people. You gained Selen, Nawaki, Shoko, Dango, and Tuka. They all believe in you, baka, and care for you. Tara replied, I don't know Sakura here at all, Naruto, but I care for you also. You saved me and my daughter. And me as well, baka. You saved me, and you haven't done anything to ever make me think you're a demon. I want to say I am sorry. I blamed you because I was hurt by my family and village not caring enough to save me, and I blamed you for the way you beat me in that spar. Tsunade said, taking a deep breath as Naruto looked up at her while holding Sakura. After Sakura passed out and coughed up some blood, Naruto's eyes widened. He turned to face Tsunade and begged, if I give you your chakra back, can you help her? Sakura caught Tsunade's eye as she said, I don't know anything about foxes, but I can try. Take your shirt off and hurry please. The jutsu she used puts a strain on the organs, said Naruto, who stood up and winced in agony. Despite his determined expression, Tsunade questioned, why'd I need to take my shirt off? Naruto replied, I need to draw seals on you to break the one on your neck. Please hurry. I don't know how much damage she has taken. After giving Sakura a quick glance, Tsunade nods and takes off her shirt. Naruto, growing agitated, then yanks a kunai and cuts the bindings off her chest, causing Tsunade to scream and say, sorry. After cutting his finger, he started drawing seals on her arms and back before turning to face her and saying, just drop it already. We both know you're wearing a genjutsu to hide your real looks. Tsunade scowled before revealing a pair of cup breasts and letting the binding drop. To Tsunade's surprise, Naruto ignored them and swiftly drew the seals. He then put his hands together and said, this is going to hurt. As all 4 clones started to flash through hand signs, Naruto removed his shirt and cloak and drew a line across his chest and down both arms. He then touched the clone holding the final seal, which he drew on Tsunade after it disappeared in smoke. He repeated the process for the other 4 clones. The seals all activated as the final one went up in smoke. Reaching Tsunade's neck, the seal broke, sending a chakra pulse through the area, and Naruto, who was hit the hardest, passed out in agony. Tsunade's chakra returned, and she hurriedly checked Naruto after he fainted before approaching Sakura, who leapt up unharmed, grinned, and remarked, and the best acting award goes to me. Blinking, Tsunade questioned, what? When Tara realized what had happened, she blinked and began to giggle, and Selen, who had come out, asked, what's so funny, mommy? This is Yakumo. She is a genjutsu fox. Naruto has ways around it, but his greatest weakness is genjutsu. She made it look like I used his shapeshift jutsu called sexy no jutsu, and I just bit my lip to cough up the blood. Tsunade looked at Sakura, who yipped, and 2 tail brown foxes emerged. Sakura's tails glowed as she checked Naruto and stated, he should be out for about 20 minutes. Tsunade inquired, what's going on? Sakura came over with her tail slapped as she said, now listen to me, Tsunade-sama. I respect you very much, and I'm not telling you to be his friend. I am not telling you to even care for him, but if you ever call him a demon again, I will kill you. Naruto is literally the sun in my life. He is the type of person who sacrifices his own happiness to give someone else's theirs. If you take the time and accept him for who he is, you will find that you won't ever find another who will make you feel the way he does. To many, Naruto can be described as one word, a hero. He brings hope to those who have none. Is he really from the future? Tsunade scowled. Sakura murmured, as hard as it is to believe it, Tsunade-sama, he is from a possible future, but his timeline no longer exists. Because of the pain the Kyuubi caused Naruto in his life, Inari, the god of fertility and kitsune, gave him a gift when he was sent back in time. Inari removed the Kyuubi from Naruto except for a little bit of chakra, and when he changed time by signing the Kitsune contract preventing the person responsible for the destruction of every person on the planet from getting it in his timeline. In Naruto timeline there are some who will be born that won't be born here, and vice versa. Inari gave some of those who will never be born a chance to be born as Kitsunes. Each of Naruto's summons was a close friend in his own time. Terra questioned Tsunade, who was wide-eyed, "But why are you telling us all this? Surely you have a motive to tell us such valuable information." Sakura responded, We each care for Naruto. We may even be punished by Inari for doing this, but since Tsunade-sama mother already blew the lid off of the can by entering his mind and telling your grandfather and granduncle he was from the future, making the few who know doubt him thanks to what she saw, we have no choice but to tell you something so you will quit thinking he is crazy or insane and be scared of him. After massaging her temples, Tsunade questioned, "But why does it matter what we think about him?" Sakura responded, "Not we. You Tsunade-sama are the only person who can destroy him emotionally. You don't realize the power that you have over him. That you from his timeline lost her brother on his first mission. Her grandfather was killed by Madara Uchiha. Her fiancé copyright was killed during a war, as was her granduncle. The Tsunade of his timeline knew the pain of loss and heartache as much as Naruto did." Tsunade flinched at those words as Sakura continued, "Naruto and the other you formed some kind of bond. At times you treated him as a little brother, and then at times you treated him as something else. It was weird the way you both had acted. People sometimes joked that you both were secret lovers, but the most that ever happened between you was when one needed the emotional support of the other. You might hug, or maybe you would kiss him on the forehead if it would bring a smile on the other's face. For her and Naruto, they were each other's happiness and they wanted to see the other smile. That was it. She was his shield that protected him when he had heartache or loneliness, and he was her sword that stopped all who would destroy her or cause her more pain. Naruto promised himself and her that if he ever had the chance to bring her happiness, he would. Now that he is here, he is trying to keep his promises, even though he knows that you will never be the woman he knew. He wants nothing more than to see you happy. Your happiness is more important to him than even living, because of the bond that he had with the other you." Tsunade responded, "So what are you saying? Because some other me treated him nicely, he is expecting me to do the same?" Sakura nodded her head and replied, "No. Why do you think he said when you get to Konoha you won't ever see him again? He will walk away after he returns you home and you won't ever see him. He thinks that is what will make you happy. He knows you're not her and he is actually glad you're not. That means that he succeeded in keeping his promise, but since you have a chance to be happy now without the heartache the other you had, he was hoping that at least he could earn a real smile knowing that it was him who gave you that smile or simple friendship. Is it so hard to believe that someone who has suffered as much as he had would be happy with seeing that he was able to bring a smile to a friend's face? If you can't understand that, Tsunade-sama, I pity you." Tsunade raised her arms in surrender and said, "It's just so hard to believe it all. I mean, time travel, demons, pain, death, all the things he claimed to have experienced is just so hard to understand." Sakura replied, "No, it's not hard if you are willing to do one thing. Trust for ninja. That is hard for you to accept, but remember you're human first and a ninja second. Trust him as one human being to another and you will find that you won't have so much trouble believing you were not born a ninja. You made a choice to become one. Make a choice now to remember you and him are both human and go from there." "All right, I will try to believe him, but he won't let me even tell him I am sorry," Tsunade said, closing her eyes. Sakura smirked as she approached Naruto and touched his head with her tail, saying, "Just follow my lead." After a short while, Naruto opened his eyes and asked, "Are you all right, Sakura?" as soon as he saw her. Sakura replied, "Yes, thanks to Tsunade-sama, she healed me up real quick." As he sat up, Naruto squinted and glared at Tsunade. His eyes gradually turned from hard to soft blue, and he muttered, "Thank you for saving her. She's precious to me and I don't want to lose her or anyone else that precious to me." He then turned his head away from Tsunade and looked down. Tsunade noticed that Sakura was winking at her and, "No problem. I was wondering, could you tell me some more about your future? It was hard for me to believe at first, but I would like to hear how things were." After staring at her for a few seconds, Naruto's eyes widened and he winced as he stood up and said, "Shit, we need to get going soon. The chakra pulse will draw Iwa-nin's here soon." "You're still injured, Naruto," Sakura remarked. "Yeah, but I don't have time to let it heal," Naruto said as he began to limp toward the carriage. To which Tsunade replied, "Then let me pull the cart." Looking south, Naruto said, "Shit, we got company coming. Sakura, get out of here. I will summon you when I can." Tsunade, help Terra guard Selen. He was about to say something else when he threw her a pair of kunais. As Sakura rose in smoke, Tsunade grabbed them, nodded, and started to look around. Terra inquired, "Is it Iwa?" As he tested his ankle and thought, "Shit, I can't fight with my foot injured as it is. I hope they are friendly," Naruto remarked, "I don't think so. They're coming from Whirlpool." After a few seconds, 8 armed men surrounded the carriage, and Naruto stared at the forehead protectors and thought, "Shit, Iwa Nins. Terra, what are you doing here?" One of the men asked, staring at her and Selen with wide eyes, and Terra scowled. Prior to Terra's response, Naruto, who had already started to reflect, attracted everyone's attention by saying, "I brought her here. I told her I knew where her husband's body was buried, so she agreed to come with me so she and her daughter could pay their respects to his grave." All of the Iwa ninjas froze for a moment before preparing to fight when one of them said, "Blonde hair, blue eyes, whiskers, you the guy the Tsuchikage got a bounty on Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze." "How do you know that name?" Naruto asked, his gaze fixed on the man who was releasing a small amount of ki. When Naruto noticed one of the Iwa nins holding a kunai at Selen's neck, everyone appeared perplexed, and the Iwa nin said, "It's none of your business how we know the name. Surrender or my men will kill the girl." "What are you doing, Captain? They're Iwa citizens," asked the person who knew Selen and Terra. The officer replied, "They're traveling with a man who is wanted for his crimes against our country. Now follow orders or suffer the consequences." With an innocent demeanor, Naruto inquired, "So how much is the bounty on my head and for what?" as he observed the men's tension and Selen's fear. The previous speaker, Iwa Nin, said, 2 million alive, 1 million dead, and you know what, you're charged with stealing the Biju statues as well as messing with the execution of the blonde girl here. Now surrender or die." While Terra and Tsunade scowled, Selen's eyes widened in shock and she started crying. Naruto scowled and said, "And what, I suppose if I do surrender you will kill me anyways, even though the others here are completely innocent. The girl and mother I was planning to use as a cover story to make it seem like we were a family until we got to Konoha. Her husband was very informative before I killed him." Naruto reacted by saying, "I rescued Tsunade brother so I could get into Konoha and try to get the info on the Biju. I could only get a little info on 3 of them before I was discovered and kicked out. When I heard about her being captured when I was in the area, I decided I would rescue her then use her as ransom. The blonde is merely a means to the end. I need to know where the other Biju are so I can capture them as well, so I plan to use her as payment for the info from the Shodaimes Hokage." As Tsunade went to punch Naruto, who sidestepped the blow and knocked her out with a chop to the neck, everyone was stunned and she yelled, "You bastard!" Naruto said, "Sorry, Tsunade." The Iwa nin who had previously called her name grabbed Terra as she screamed, "I trusted you." Naruto then turned to face her and remarked, "What? You know I'm nothing but an asshole who doesn't care for anyone but myself." "Oh shit, he's trying to keep us from being killed by taking the blame," Terra thought as she realized what Naruto was doing. A man suddenly materialized behind Naruto, and before he could move, he was struck in the back of the head and fell to the ground. The Iwa nin's leader declared, "Bind him and the girls, we'll return them to Whirlpool and keep them there until the Tsuchikage shows up." Selen said, "Mommy, did he really kill Daddy?" as she turned to face her mother. "Yeah dear, I guess he did," Terra said, biting her lip. She let a tear fall and thought, "Please be okay, Naruto. I just wanted to know where your father was buried and give you a chance to say goodbye to him, and I was a fool to trust him and his words." As she was restrained, the Iwa nin who knew her said, "Just don't do anything stupid, Terra, and I am sure the Tsuchikage will forgive you with a small reprimand since you should have known better than to trust a stranger. I'm sorry, but I have to try and protect Selen just like you were trying to." As she was being led away in a bound, Tsunade and Naruto, Terra remarked, "I guess you're right, Trident." The Iwa ninjas were tending to Naruto, who was unconscious, Tsunade, and Selen, who had fallen asleep, on the way to Whirlpool. Everyone stopped to stare at Tsunade, the ninja who cared about them, when he said, "Something's not right about this bitch." "What are you talking about?" asked the captain. After checking Tsunade briefly after dropping her to the ground, the nin's eyes widened and he exclaimed, "Shit Captain, she's dead." He got to his feet and said, "Her neck's been broken." The captain approached and inquired, "What?" He checked, scowled, and looked up at Naruto, saying, "It must have been when he hit her earlier. If he killed her, then she and the other 2 must be worthless to him." "What should we do about her, sir?" asked the nin who had dropped her. "If she is dead, then she is of no use to us," the captain said, scowling as he started to go through hand signals and touch the ground, which sucked up Tsunade's body. "We can at least avoid attracting wild animals here and frightening some sap later by burying the body. Let's get going now." He glanced at the nin who had knocked Naruto unconscious and said, "You did remove all his weapons, correct?" "Yes, Captain," the nin replied. "He already had a number of storage scrolls on him, so I simply sealed them up for later examination." "When did you learn anything about sealing arrows?" the captain asked, glancing at the nin who had knocked Naruto unconscious. Eros replied, I've been trying to learn a little on it recently cause I am getting tired of carrying so much stuff on me. After a moment of frowning, the captain said, well, that's good. See me if you need any assistance understanding anything even though I'm not an expert. I do have some knowledge. Another Iwanin said, dumbass, you know Captain likes to feel better than us because of his sealing knowledge. Why did you tell him you were studying about it? As he turned and started to flee, Eros was slapped upside the head as he leapt through the trees. He said, now he's going to work our asses off to prove he's better. Shifting Naruto on his shoulder, Eros grinned and trailed behind the others. As they arrived in Whirlpool, the group made their way swiftly to the castle perched on the hill in the middle of the village, where they placed Naruto in a room with multiple seals on the walls. Eros carried him inside while the others waited outside the door, and when he emerged, the captain questioned, what took you so long in there? I went back to make sure he didn't have anything else I might have missed, Eros said. It's better to be safe than sorry. The group then led Selen and Terra to another room similar to the one Naruto was in and placed them there. The captain said, good thinking, as he shut the door and locked it, causing the room where Naruto was glowing for a moment. What's going to happen to us now? Inquired Terra. Until the Tsuchikage arrives in a few days, you will be provided with food and water on a regular basis. The captain stated what you told us about that guy showing you where your husband's body was and the fact that he acknowledges he was using you will be explained in the message I send him. After that, he will determine your destiny. Terra smiles and says, please tell him I accept full punishment for my actions and please don't punish my daughter. I will, the captain said. I apologize for this now, he said, locking them in the room and shutting the door. The captain noticed that Eros wasn't following the others as they started to leave, so he asked, is there a problem, Eros? After he looked into the room and locked eyes with Terra. I'm sorry, Captain. Eros said something I was trying to recall. I have a friend named Sakura who looks like the woman and her daughter. Before he started to follow the others, he noticed Terra's eyes widen, but she named her daughter Kitsune. Well, you all did an excellent job in capturing that wanted man and I will put it in my report to the Tsuchikage, the captain said as they arrived at the throne room. Before calling it a day, each of you patrols the village in search of any trouble. The men turned and departed, each saying, yes sir. Eros grabbed his stomach and said, damn it, I ate something that didn't agree with me. As he slowly followed the group, he turned and began running down the hall away from the group, saying, I'll catch up in a few. As one of the men put it, you guys notice how he seemed strange since we captured those people. Another said, my friend, it's greed. He has already started making plans for how he will use the reward money. As they went about their separate ways to conduct their patrols, the men exchanged glances and grinned. He held up his hands and said, I'm only a clone. Wait to kill me until I tell you where you are or you won't get home and boss's sacrifice will be in vain. Tsunade heard the sound of a fire later that evening and slowly opened one eye. She blinked and looked around. Realizing she was in a cave, she turned and growled at the person she saw, ready to attack. Glancing around, Tsunade scowled and questioned, what sacrifice? Where are we and where are those Iwanins? The clone said, the cabin boss used half of his chakra to create a special clone called a blood clone. When you all got in the carriage before you left, he left it there to try and divert any Iwanins who might be following your group. When the clone sensed the chakra pulse from your seal being released, they had not yet arrived and rushed to assist. He arrived just in time to see the Iwanins arrive from Whirlpool. Wait, what do you mean, Whirlpool? Tsunade blinked. They came from Iwa, didn't they? The replica replied, no, that was one of the reasons the clone thought boss went through his lies to get you to attack him. Perplexed, Tsunade questioned, why would he want me to attack him? I'm not sure I understand. So he could replace you with the Iwanin that the clone killed, the clone said. As you recall, there were only 8 Iwanins visible. There must have been another Iwa hiding and waiting because the boss is aware that she always travels in groups of 3. The blood clone found him, killed him, and then transformed him into you using the seductive no jutsu in order to save you, Selen, and Terra, as well as to discover why those Iwanins knew he was an Uzumaki and why they had come from Whirlpool. The boss then used the blood clone to create me while diverting the attention of the others and instructing me to replace you with the dead nin on the ground. He then transformed into the nin he had killed and knocked out the boss. After scowling, Tsunade questioned, but then why did he knock me out? Simple. To prevent your irascible temper from destroying his escape plan to save you, the clone said. We are currently approximately 3 miles east of the location where your group was apprehended. The scroll contains food, weapons, and all the information the boss was able to obtain regarding the 2 outposts, the number of Iwa ninjas, and a few other strategic details that could help save Konoha in the event of an Iwa attack. The boss wanted me to apologize for any hurt he may have caused you and for not being able to personally transport you back to Konoha. It's likely that he will pass away shortly." When Tsunade's eyes widened, she exclaimed, "What?" The clone stated, "Well, if the Iwa Nins originated in Whirlpool, then they are probably attacking or have taken control of Whirlpool. If they are aware that he is an Uzumaki, they may be targeting his mother and her family. If he is correct, he will attempt to appear as though he is not an Uzumaki in order to protect them because he does not want them to be harmed or killed. He has already given the impression that he deceived Terra and Selen into visiting her father's grave as though he was not responsible for his passing, but he later revealed to Selen that he had killed her father so that she would lash out in rage at him and persuade the Iwa Nins that they are innocent of everything." Tsunade scowled and inquired, "What is he doing?" "I believed he had feelings for Terra and Selen. Because his enemies harm and kill anyone who comes in contact with him." The clone stated that, "In my opinion, is one of the reasons he has been trying so hard to keep you angry with him." As Tsunade put it, "What do you mean?" The replica replied, "Well, I don't know how much you believe about him being from the future, but he knows enough about you from his past that he knows making you feel weak while he acts like he is better than you will keep you away from him since you hate stuck-up people even though you act like one sometimes." Tsunade gave the clone a fierce look and inquired, "What made him so angry when they discovered he was an Uzumaki?" "I'm not sure I understand." Simply put, only people from Konoha know him by that name, followed by you, Selen, and Terra. The clone stated he never used his name elsewhere because he had only been in Konoha for a few days. He used Naruto Namikaze in Iwa, so someone had to tell them that name. "Did you do it?" "No," Tsunade said, "until I was asked about you. I had no idea you were there." With a nod, the clone said, "Well, my chakra is almost gone. Please use caution and return home to your family without incident. The boss wanted me to tell you to live a long, happy life with lots of love and to spoil your kids and grandkids." As he rose in smoke, he said, "Goodbye." Tsunade thought, "I was wrong about you, Naruto." As she saw the smoke and turned to look at the ground where the scroll was, she then grabbed it. "Absolutely incorrect. I understand what Sakura meant when she said, 'You are the sun.'" 2 hours had passed since the 3 inmates were taken to Whirlpool. Terra gazed at her sleeping daughter in her prison cell and asked, "What are you doing, Naruto? What will happen to us now, and how did you manage to get away? Did you actually murder Tsunade?" Looking around his cell, Naruto thought, "All right, boss, I wish you luck." He smirked and said, "I hope no one enters her and tries to torture me so that I don't dispel and blow shit up." When Tsunade felt a chakra signature enter the cave several miles away, she was sleeping on the ground near the fire pretending to be asleep. She took out a kunai and threw it at the figure that entered the cave without opening her eyes. However, as she did so, she saw the kunai being snatched out of the air by a man who put his finger in the end of the kunai hole and remarked, "Not bad aim. A little faster and it might have actually hit me." As she hurried to her feet and braced herself for a brawl, Tsunade glared at the individual and questioned, "Who are you?" "Who I am is not important, Tsunade Senju." The individual said, "I'm just trying to find a friend of yours. Where is he?" With a perplexed expression, Tsunade inquired, "Where is who?" "Where is the person who saved you?" asked the one Tsunade couldn't see well in the cave's darkness. "Where is Naruto?" With a frown, Tsunade remarked, "Never heard of him." She was slammed against the cave wall before she could blink, and her eyes widened when she saw the man standing in front of her. "I will not repeat myself," he said. "I know he was here, or at least one of his cage shins was, because I felt his chakra here just a few hours ago. I'm going to ask you again now, Princess, where is He?" As she struggled to breathe, Tsunade questioned, "Why do you want him?" He smirked, and Tsunade recognized him right away after noticing something about the person holding her. "He and I have a history together," he said. "Now speak." Fearing for her life, Tsunade said, "Whirlpool." Feeling as though she was going to faint, the Iwa Nins captured him and brought him to Whirlpool. She rubbed her throat and thought, "My God, who was he?" as the man left her on the ground and left the cave before she could even catch her breath. When she slammed her hands on the ground, she said, "Kachiyose no jutsu." A 2-foot-tall slug then appeared and said, "Hello, Tsunade-hime." She looked around the cave, bit her lip, and thought for a moment before biting her thumb and starting to go through some hand signs. "Seeing you again is pleasant. How may I help you?" To her surprise, Tsunade recognized the slug and said, "Hello, Katsuki, I need you for something really important." Katsuki inquired, "What is it, Tsunade-hime, and I will carry it out for you." After inhaling deeply, Tsunade uttered, "I need." The following day, an elderly man wearing a straw hat and filthy clothes was strolling through the village of Whirlpool holding a bottle of sake when someone who had made him pause approached him from the other side of the narrow street and greeted him with the words, "Hello, Dazuna." As he discreetly took a weapon out of his pocket, the elderly man asked, "Do I know you?" "Come on, dead last," the younger, brown-haired man said. "We have a lot to talk about," he said as he turned to leave. Tsunade's eyes widened as he started to follow the younger man as his mind raced through 100 possible scenarios. As they entered a house close to the village's edge, Tsunade turned to look around and saw that the person he was following had died, his body covered in smoke, revealing another person's body. Tsunade felt someone follow him back and heard someone say, "Shikan no Jutsu. Dead Soul Technique Dobi." Naruto was standing there, staring at the person who had been behind him, and he said, "Hello Teme." Tsunade's eyes were wide as he turned slowly, covered in smoke. "So how do you like the past?" asked Sasuke, grinning, as he took a step back. "How are you here and alive?" Sasuke inquired. Naruto, "I took your life." "You know you're still a little slow Dobi for Kage," Sasuke said, crossing his arms. "Where did Gaara get the time-traveling jutsu, in your opinion? Did you ever suspect that it was kinjutsu? Gaara differs from us in that he is not an expert in either ninjutsu or sealing. How could he pull off a kinjutsu of this size when his style was based on sand, wind, and his own special taijutsu?" After giving it some consideration, Naruto scowled and questioned, "That still does not explain how you are alive." "Easy. Recall how Kabuto appeared in the last battle," Sasuke said. "Since you battled him, you should be aware that although he may have been powerful, he lacked the chakra and control necessary to call so many Kages back to the world of the living to help defeat Madara. You should be aware that Kabuto wasn't even alive at the time Madara sent me to kill him because he would never allow Orochimaru and Kabuto to survive, and I succeeded. I then prepared to help you and the others destroy him by using the same jutsu you just witnessed to have Kabuto's body replace me. But then why fake your death? Why make it for me to go back in time? And why come yourself also? How are you even here?" said Naruto, narrowing his eyes. "How are you here? I know that the Kyuubi chakra is the only reason I continue to exist." Jugo was the only child of a Jinchuriki, but it wasn't one of the Biju, Sasuke stated, yanking his shirt to the side. "Orochimaru utilized his demonic chakra as the foundation for the curse seal like you. Once I realized you were here, that chakra protected me to return. The reason I sent you back is that Madara can only be stopped by the two of us." Naruto stated, "Madara dead. He tried to use Tsukuyomi on me and Itachi gift blinded him and his brother killed him." "Not exactly Dobi," said Sasuke with a sly smile. "You were correct about the blinding part, but Madara killed his brother and stole his eyes after you were banished along with Kakuzu. He has been conducting raids on Iwa." With narrowed eyes, Naruto questioned, "How do you know all this?" "I have Itachi's summon contract." Sasuke declared. "You killed a raven, remember? I had been following you since you got back to Konoha, and that was one of my summonses. I had one watching the village while I trained because I knew that would be the first place you went after coming here. So how did you find me here then, and why haven't you shown up before now?" said Naruto, scowling. "The Shodaimes snuck you out of the village while my summon was observing Madara after you defeated him," sighed Sasuke, his smirk fading. "I was unaware of your whereabouts until I learned of Tsunade's capture, knowing how important she is to you. I waited for you to arrive to save her before confronting you. That's why I hurried out of Iwa territory and came this way as soon as I felt the Biju chakra released in this area. Tsunade told me where you were when I found her in a cave." "Exactly how did Tsunade tell you where I was, because I can't see her giving that info away freely?" asked Naruto, squinting his eyes. Naruto's eyes widened as he turned to see Tsunade seated on a chair across the room after hearing a voice from the opposite side of the room behind him say, "He attacked me and nearly choked me to death." Sasuke shrugged and said, "Don't blame me," as he turned to glare at him. "When it comes to not listening and avoiding trouble, she is just as bad as Sakura was. The fact that almost every girl you like is capable of kicking your ass, Dobi, makes me believe you are a masochist." Ignoring Sasuke's comment, Naruto turned and questioned, "What the hell are you doing here, Tsunade?" Tsunade got up, went over, and gave Naruto a punch to the stomach, causing him to lose some of his breath, saying, "Listen, you fool, I armed myself and hurried here to warn you about dipshit after he attacked me. Believing he might be here to kill you, I then used that scroll to send a summons back to Konoha. He found me, knocked me unconscious, and I woke up here. I can't help it." Shaking his head, Naruto uttered the words, "Damn it, damn it, damn it, that this can get any worse." "Well yeah, we could be chasing Tora," Sasuke remarked. That thought made both Naruto and Sasuke shudder, and Naruto sighed before asking, "So what are you both going to do?" "I can't take Madara and Kakuzu by myself, or I would have done it already," said Sasuke with a shrug. "We must defend Konoha or neither of us will survive, along with everyone we knew, because you were causing Iwa to start the first great shinobi war." "I can't, Teme," Naruto uttered the Shodaimes essentially exiled me for kicking Madara's ass, and now this whole thing is happening in Whirlpool. Where are Terra and Selen at Naruto? Inquired Tsunade. They are under guard in the castle right now, but they are safe for the time being. Naruto stated everyone believed I was taking advantage of them in order to obtain the Biju. What about your mom Dobi? Sasuke inquired. I never knew who she was, but I know she's from here because Orochimaru somehow found out I inquired about the Uzumakis when I first arrived, and it seems like this place shuns that name. If your information about Madara is correct, he killed all of the Uzumaki who were in the castle, and from what I've learned, Whirlpool was probably the first place he attacked, Naruto said as he approached and took a seat. In addition to being in a cell in the castle like Selen and Terra for her alleged protection, my mother wasn't present at the time of the attack. She was with a friend. There are a lot of Iwa nins here because the residents of Whirlpool have joined Iwa. They have been promised protection by the Tsuchikage in return for their allegiance. Who exactly are this Terra and Selen woman Dobi? Sasuke scowled. Tsunade remarked, basically, Selen has become Naruto's niece from what I could tell, and Terra has become his sister here, as Naruto looked down. As Naruto opened his mouth, Sasuke's and his eyes widened as they turned to face west when an explosion was heard. Tsunade heard the explosion and asked, what's wrong? The Tsuchikage is here and he is not happy, Naruto remarked with a frown. When I arrived, I substituted a Bunshin Bakuha, exploding clone, for myself, and he simply blew up. That's why I enjoy spending time with you, Dobi, said Sasuke with a sly smile. You always take advantage of your most formidable adversaries. What would you like to do then? Naruto clenched his teeth and said, Sasuke, I need your help to get my mother, Selen, and Terra out of here along with Tsunade here and get them to Konoha. Why not? Said Sasuke. I don't care as long as you assist me in destroying Madara because I have nothing better to do. Itachi destroyed my family because of him. You that Sasuke, the one who put his hand through Naruto's chest, Tsunade exclaimed, her eyes widening. Dobi, are blondes all that slow at realizing things? Sasuke asked, glancing at her. Don't try that again, Senju, said Tsunade, drawing back to punch Sasuke, who materialized behind her with his sword at her neck. The only reason I appear at ease and joke around with the Dobi here is because I regard him as an equal. It always comes down to the same thing when we fight: who has the longest standing distance to me. You are merely a stepping stone. I would have killed you in the cave if I hadn't known how the Dobi here cares for you, but if by helping you I help him so he can help me, then so be it. The voice in front of him vanished into smoke, and Sasuke tensed as he felt a kunai at his throat. Naruto then said, and remember Teme, you hurt any of my precious people and I will kill you. When Sasuke and Naruto appeared behind each other, Tsunade jumped away and looked at them both, not recognizing either move. Sasuke grinned as he dissolved into ravens and emerged on the opposite side of the room, saying, then I don't see any trouble, Dobi. Naruto glared and then grinned back, saying, very well Teme. When Tsunade noticed both grinning, she remarked, you two are nuts. They both turned to face her, and Naruto grinned as Sasuke uttered the words, HN. So what do we do? Tsunade inquired. How can we get the others and leave this place, really? After rubbing his chin with his finger, Naruto uttered the words, Oi Teme, feel like a spar. After blinking and giving Naruto a quick glance, Sasuke said, always. Tsunade appeared bewildered as Naruto grinned. 20 minutes later, Tsunade left to prepare for her part after Naruto had told her and Sasuke about his plan. He had also taken her into a different room and taught her the sexy no jutsu, which would allow her to transform into her mother's genjutsu. The seasoned ninja who glared at Sasuke after she left said, alright Teme, the hostage is now gone. You got my attention and knew I would most likely attack you first before asking questions, so what are you really playing at? Naruto's foolish, lighthearted demeanor vanished as he turned to face Sasuke. Why whatever do you mean Dobi? Inquired Sasuke. Naruto moved faster than Sasuke's normal eyes could follow and slammed Sasuke into the wall with his arm under Sasuke's chin and said, don't play games with me Uchiha. I know you better than anyone, so I know you won't do anything for anyone unless it for your own agenda. If your real goal was to kill Madara, you would have tried to do it yourself and not brought me here. You would also never say that I was your equal because of your pride, so quit trying to blow smoke up my ass and tell me why you sent me to the past. I realized already something about Gaara sending me was off, but I didn't have the info till now to figure it out, so spill it. You're right Dobi, if Madara was my real goal I would have killed him, but he's not. There is something I need and you were the only person who could help me get it, Sasuke said, releasing Naruto's grip and stepping out of his grasp before leaping back across the room into a defensive stance. With a narrowed gaze, Naruto said, I'm listening. Sasuke replied, I never was a tracker, you know this. I always had someone else track my targets for me. Karen being a good example. I needed your skills as a tracker to find someone for me. With his gaze fixed on Sasuke, Naruto scowled and uttered, so you went through all this trouble to bring me to this time period to find someone for you. Why me, and how do you know this person is even here, and why do you want this person? Sasuke was sighing as he said, the person is here because I sent her here to save her life, and the reason I am looking for her is because she is my finance and is carrying my unborn child. Naruto's eyes widened as he searched Sasuke for any indication of dishonesty before saying, tell me everything. Sasuke sighed and said, it started when I was in Rain. After I had killed my brother, I was training to help to destroy Konoha when I felt someone watching me on one of the balconies in the room I was training, and I waited until the person let their guard down and I went to attack, and as my blade prepared to kill the person I noticed something that stopped me in my tracks. The person was a girl, but that wasn't what stopped me. She had the Sharingan and she had been coping me. Naruto replied, but how? Besides you, Itachi, and Madara, there were not any other Uchiha. Sasuke said, that is what I thought as well, Dobi, and as far as the rest of the world is concerned, it was the truth. However, I found out after we spent a little time together with me finding out how she had the Sharingan and everything is that Madara spent some of his time looking for females to make strong heirs, and he found a woman and she had a daughter who she named Miko. Over the next few months we got close, real close, but we kept our meeting secret because Madara had told her that if anyone found out about her he would kill her. When I went to capture the Hachibi and I returned with the rest of my team, Madara called me into a room where Miko was and she was on the ground passed out, and he attacked me from behind. When I woke up, the room had been sealed and Madara's voice came across some speakers and he said that he was disappointed in us both. He had discovered that she was pregnant because she had morning sickness. He then said that the room had been sealed with a special seal that was made where it could not open the door to leave until there was only one chakra signature in the room, and that we had to decide who would live and who would die. We were trapped in there for over a week trying to find some way out. Naruto replied, but the problem is she had 2 signatures, right? Sasuke sighed and replied, yeah, I had offered to let her kill me and she told me that, so I thought of everything I knew to get us out. Even my Chidori would not free us from the room, and as I saw her getting in worse shape from no food and only the water I had with me when I had returned, I tried to find a way to save her and our child. I realized there was only one way, and that was to send her to the past using one of the jutsu Orochimaru had me learn during my time under him as a failsafe. If I wasn't strong enough to kill Itachi, I could rewind time for a few months and get even stronger, but the problem was that it required a curse seal or a Jinchuriki. And after opening his eyes wide, Naruto said, so you gave her one and she survived and you sent her to the past. Sasuke responds by saying, yeah, I sent her back to before Madara got his brother's eyes, and I was going to come right after her, but I realized that as long as Madara lived, her and our child would be in danger, so I waited until he was dead. But I realized that I would have to find her since I didn't know exactly where she would be, and I needed someone who could find the chakra from a curse seal, and the only 2 people who could do that was Karen, who had already died in battle, and you. With his eyes closed, Naruto uttered, so you used me and my own dreams and ambitions to get me to aid you. Sasuke replied, yeah, I had heard the rumors about you and Tsunade, and I knew that if there was any truth to those rumors, a chance to be with her again would convince you, so I waited until I knew I could get you to do what I wanted. Fine, but you have to pay my price. I will help you find her, but only if you help me first, Naruto said after giving it some thought. Says Sasuke. Deal, Dobi. What do you want? Naruto stated, first you help me get Tsunade, Selen, Terra, and my mother to Konoha safely. I also want a box of Pocky. Why do you want Pocky, Dobi? Sasuke asked, blinking repeatedly. Naruto stated, I have acquired a taste for it before I came back, and I know Uchiha have an addiction to it as much as I have for ramen, so give me a case of Pocky. Those are my 2 requirements. You're just lucky that I brought the recipe with me to the past, Dobi, and I got a factory to start making it, Sasuke said after giving it some thought and taking out a scroll to open a small case of Pocky. Naruto grasped the pocket knife and said, one more thing, Teme. Tsunade is not my Tsunade, but she is precious to me, and you threaten her again like that and I will make sure that you never have any other kids. I care for her, but we can't be together. She destined to be with another, and I won't stand in the way of her happiness. After we return them to Konoha, I will help you find you finance, and I will follow my sensei and become a sage and travel the world until I die. Well, Tsunade should be in position. Let's go, Teme. With a grin on his face. They both snoozed, but they failed to notice the slug beneath the couch that was rising in smoke. With a tiny shawl draped over her shoulders, Tsunade was leaning against a wall beneath the shawl. Another slug was echoing everything her twin, who had been listening to Sasuke and Naruto, had sent. As she listened to everything, Tsunade bit her lip, so consumed by her thoughts that she almost missed the Chunin running past her to enter the castle across the street. After the Shushind left the house, Naruto and Sasuke showed up in front of the Whirlpool village gates. They both threw a kunai at the gate guards, killing 3 of them and pinning the 4th to the wall. He said, "I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the Onike's Kami, and if you want to live, go get that bitch of a Kage and bring his ass out here to fight." Naruto then approached the one pinned to the wall, punched the Chunin in the gut, grabbed his shirt, and threw him 20 feet down the road while drawing another kunai. The Chunin started running after almost urinating on his pants. After returning to Sasuke, who appeared disinterested, Naruto made a Kage Bunshin and gave it a kunai. The Kage Bunshin fled the village while the 2 boys waited. "Sorry sir to interrupt, but the other guards at the main gate are dead and someone by the name of Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze is calling you out, sir," the Chunin said as he dashed into the castle and quickly entered the throne room where the Tsuchikage was receiving treatment for the wounds he sustained from the exploding clone. As he released a tremendous amount of ki, the Tsuchikage's eyes widened, and he exclaimed, "Where is he?" After collapsing under the strain, the Chunin uttered the words, "He's outside the main gates along with another man, sir." When the other ninja in the room left to spread the word, the Tsuchikage woke up and yelled, "Order all ninja to the front gate and prepare for combat. I want his head before the sun sets." Tsunade thought, "Well, he sure knows how to piss people off. I will give him that," as she entered the castle and followed Naruto's instructions to locate the room where Selen and Terra were. She saw the Tsuchikage and almost 200 other ninja leave the castle on their way to the main gate. Upon arriving, she took out an exploding tag, attached it to the door, and left as the door exploded. Terra's eyes were wide as she heard the explosion and dropped the jutsu. Tsunade then said, "Grab your daughter and come on, we have one other person to grab and we have to leave." Terra turned and started to run out the door as Terra started to get up and tend to her daughter. When the Tsuchikage heard an explosion coming from the castle, he stopped in the middle of his journey to the gates and ordered some men to go investigate. When Naruto heard the explosion outside the village, he bit his thumb, started flashing through hand signals, slammed his hand on the ground, and said, "Kachiyose no jutsu." He thought of Itachi. "It's showtime, Teme." As soon as Sasuke and Naruto were standing atop the 200-foot-tall Kyuubi no Kitsune, Sasuke heard a voice say, "Do you have my Paki, Naruto?" and froze. When Naruto saw Sasuke freeze, he grinned and said, "Sure do, Itachi, and it's all thanks to your little brother Sasuke here." He then knocked Sasuke off Itachi's head and asked why he had thrown the Paki on the ground before he shook off. As he started to gather chakra in his hands, Sasuke screamed, "Itachi, I am going to kill you again," and then the Dobi. Itachi then ate the box of Paki, flicked Sasuke in the head with his tail, and said, "Foolish little brother." When Naruto's hands hit the ground, the Tsuchikage's eyes widened at the sight of the Kyuubi. He then turned to face his men, who were also growing frightened. Then they heard what Itachi and Sasuke had to say. Sasuke expanded his bat wings, flew into the air, and attacked Itachi, who had begun grabbing Iwan nins off the village walls with his tails and throwing them at his brother. Naruto appeared in front of Tsunade, who had just grabbed Kushina and was running out the door. Terra rushed up to him and asked, "What's going on and how do we get out of here?" As soon as Naruto heard birds chirping, he grabbed 2 women holding a girl and said, "That would be Sasuke and his brother doing some family bonding, and we are getting out of here like this." The 5 of them vanished in a yellow flash just as some Iwan ninjas arrived to investigate the explosion. About 2 miles from the village, they appeared, and Naruto thought, "Itachi, now." Sasuke flew after Itachi, who sighed and turned before sprinting in the same direction that Naruto's Kage Bunshin had run earlier. When Tsunade and Terra heard a loud, swift sound approaching them, they both saw Kyuubi's figure running toward them. Kyuubi grabbed both women as Naruto leapt into the air and landed on his head. Kyuubi then sat the women and the girls in their arms on his back and continued to run while Sasuke screamed and chased after them. When Kyuubi started grabbing his men, the Tsuchikage who had been hiding came out to discover many of his men dead or injured, and he thought, "What the hell just happened?" He was immediately accompanied by a ninja who said, "Sir, the prisoners that had been captured with Namikaze have both escaped along with the Princess Uzumaki. Tend to the wounded and send word to all our bases," said the Tsuchikage, who could see Kyuubi's form almost out of sight with $3 million on his head. "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze is currently wanted dead. Start repairing any damage," he said as he turned to leave. 20 minutes or so after the whirlpool escape, Kyuubi said, "Naruto, we need to stop because I am almost out of chakra. Set the girls on the ground and leave," Naruto said, nodding and glancing back about a half-mile to see Sasuke attempting to catch up while still in the air. "I'll take care of your brother," he said. Reaching under his cloak, Tsunade heard a click, which caught her attention as Naruto approached Kyuubi's tails while brandishing a sword. The girl in her arms gasped in terror. and Tsunade looked down to see the red-headed girl wide-eyed. When Naruto sensed that Kyuubi was stopping, he started running down the length of the Kyuubi tails, where one was at its highest point. As he ran, a red tail formed out of his back, and as he leapt off the Kyuubi tail, another red tail formed out of his back. Naruto vanished in a show of sheer speed that was faster than any of the women could follow. There was a power struggle at that point as Naruto and Sasuke collided in midair, and Kyuubi grabbed the woman with his tails and placed them on the ground. After giving them a quick glance, he grinned and vanished in smoke. During their sword fight, Sasuke gritted his teeth and yelled, "I am going to kill you, Dobi." Naruto was also present. 6 more slashes and blocks later, Naruto said, yeah, what's new there, Teme?" Before both blades were knocked off the ground, he slashed and blocked. As they landed on the ground, the two boys started fighting with taijutsu. They both phased away, grabbing their swords and fighting again before splitting up. With clenched teeth, Sasuke uttered, "How is he alive and now the Kyuubi Dobi?" "Since we both have people who depend on us," Naruto stated, "I will respond to your question, but only if we both promise not to murder one another. I have the girls, and you have your fiancé and unborn child. This can be resolved the old-fashioned way, only taijutsu." Sasuke said, "Very well, Dobi." He sheathed his sword, and Naruto did the same. Both boys assumed a stance, and Naruto emerged in front of Sasuke, who blocked it with his crossed arms. The two boys then faded out of sight, exchanging kicks and punches. Naruto threw his knees into Sasuke's stomach, causing him to double over. As they bounced around the area, he then slammed his fist into Sasuke's back, sending him crashing to the ground. While landing on a tree, "When you sent me back, I changed history by signing the Fox contract before Madara did, and because of Kyuubi trying to trick me to gain his freedom, he was punished by the goddess of Kitsune Inari, who decided to try to repay me for some of the suffering Kyuubi caused, as well as some other things, and made Itachi the new Kyuubi, but while killing the one inside of me, leaving me with only half the Fox's chakra, and your brother is only as strong as any other summon as his punishment." After Naruto finished, Sasuke emerged from the crater, heard him, and turned to face him. To Naruto's surprise, he melted into the ground as Sasuke kicked him in the chin, sending him flying. Then, Sasuke appeared behind him, prepared Lee finisher by putting his arms around him, and started spinning Naruto in the direction of the girls. After Kyuubi repelled Selen, who turned to face her mother with a bewildered expression on her face and asked, "Mommy, why are we here with them if he killed Daddy?" Tara placed Selen on the ground with the girls a short while earlier. When Tsunade said, "Selen, as you get older you will realize that even when we don't want to, there come times when things happen we can't help." Tara bit her lip, trying to think of the right words to say as she looked at Selen with sadness in her eyes. "Yes, while attempting to save my brother, Naruto accidentally killed your father. Your father unintentionally got in the way, but he didn't intend to kill him." As Selen inquired, "So Daddy did die in an accident like Mommy said, and Uncle Naruto killed Daddy but in an accident like Goldie Mom?" Tara grinned slightly. "Yes, dear, just like your kitty Goldie," Tara said, her eyes widening. "You recall how Goldie was unintentionally killed while pursuing the wagon and you wanted to prevent it from destroying your ball? The same thing applies." Looking down, Selen said, "Oh, so does that mean it's okay not to mad at Uncle Naruto then?" She then turned back to her mother. "Yes, dear, it is," Tara asked, glancing at the other young girl who seemed to be about her daughter's age. "So who are you?" Tara nodded as the red-headed girl who had been observing the red and white lights bouncing far away turned and asked, "Who, me?" She said, "Hey Dr. Lady, who is that and how does he have my family sword?" "I'm Kushina Uzumaki, Princess of Whirlpool." She gestured to Naruto and Sasuke. "I was always told that only Uzumaki can touch that sword without being hurt, and I am the only Uzumaki," she said. Tsunade nodded her head and said, "That Kushina is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. He is one of your distant relatives." Tara's eyes widened as she turned to face her. With hope in her eyes, Kushina exclaimed, "So I'm not the last one left? Are Mommy and Daddy still alive also?" "I'm sorry, dear, but aside from you and him, I don't think there are any left," Tsunade said, closing her eyes. Looking down, Kushina questioned, "So, why did we leave Whirlpool? Why did we leave the village when my parents warned me not to?" "Because you are going to live with your relative now who does not live in Whirl," Tsunade said as the field they were in was covered in dust and a crash was heard. As the dust settled, they saw Naruto emerge from a crater not far from them. He rubbed his lip with the sleeve of his jacket and said, "All right, Teme, I deserved that one for summoning him before telling you, but you had that one coming as well for what you did to me." The red chakra and tails around him began to slowly start to leave, and Sasuke landed on the ground not far away. The wings on his back disappeared as the curse seal faded, and he asked, So are there any other surprises I should know about besides my brother Dobi? As the field was engulfed in smoke, Naruto said, yeah, this. He then bit his thumb, went through the hand seals once more, slammed them onto the ground, and exclaimed, Kuchio's no jutsu. When the smoke cleared, a number of foxes of various colors were standing there. In a voice that Sasuke recognized immediately, one gasped and said, Sasuke-kun. Sasuke then said, Sakura. After squealing and changing into Karen, another fox attempted to throw Sasuke to the ground, but he leapt into a tree and turned to face Naruto, saying, you hate me, don't you? My brother came first, followed by my two biggest admirers. Fate has a sense of humor, Ha-Uchiha, remarked another fox. With narrowed eyes, Sasuke uttered the words, Hyuga. Another fox tackled Sasuke to the ground before he could react, screaming, ah, my youthful friend, you have returned to us as well. After pushing Lee away from him, Sasuke turned to face Naruto and uttered, that's it, I don't even want to know. Dobi, let them go so we can leave. Ah, you're no fun, Teme. Naruto shrugged as the foxes all went up in smoke. I said, I'll call you later, Sakura-chan, so you can tell the others, but we need to leave. Sasuke remarked, this is payback for me trying to kill you, isn't it? After the foxes had left. From me, no, from someone else maybe, Naruto said, admitting that he had to give Inari credit for that as the jewel around his neck briefly glowed. His brother and they both saw the priceless expression on his face. Whatever, Dobi, said Sasuke, we ought to leave, he said as he began to walk. After glancing at Naruto, Kushina questioned, are you really an Uzumaki? So that is what mom looked like. Chibi, I wonder what dad looks like, Naruto thought as he turned to face her. You got all your looks from your father, Dobi, Sasuke remarked after glancing at the girl. Both Kushina and Selen appeared perplexed, and Naruto leaned over to say, yeah, I am, after noticing Tsunade mouthing something, which he read and described as a distant relative, but I'm not sure how far away. I never really knew much about our family because my father, a Namikaze, and mother, an Uzumaki, both passed away the day I was born, though not much. I do know a few. You're Kushina, correct? My name is Naruto. Selen, feeling envious, cleared her throat as Kushina nodded and grinned. Naruto turned to face her and remarked, oh Selen, about your dad. It's okay, Uncle Naruto, Selen said as she rushed over to give him a hug. Mommy told me that he died in an accident, just like my cat did when I was a child. When Naruto's perspiration stopped, Sasuke yelled, come on Dobi or I am leaving you. Yeah, Naruto sighed, adding, keep your dress on Tem. Are you related to me as well? Kushina asked, glancing back and forth between Naruto and Selen. Well, Naruto said, not quite. Kushina here is Selen, as you can see. Terra intervened and stated, Selen is my daughter and Naruto is such a close friend of the family that we treat him like he's my brother, so Selen calls him uncle even though he is not by blood, but not all family are related by blood. After giving it some thought, Kushina remarked, I see what's blood. At this point, Tsunade said, it's not important Kushina, but we really should get going if we want to get to your new home soon. The three adults all started to perspire. Okay Dr. Lady, are you Naruto wife? Kushina nods, causing Tsunade to stagger and Naruto to go pale for a moment out of fear of what Tsunade might do. Tsunade then looks at Naruto and responds, no, why? Kushina looked down and remarked, oh, I just thought that if you were Uncle Naruto wife that would mean you're my aunt. When Naruto noticed Kushina's dejected expression, he closed his eyes and remarked, you got me, Kushina, you're not alone. Then Selen added, and me, according to Terra, and me as well Kushina. With a sigh, Tsunade said, alright, you got me as well, someone got to keep you safe with this baka here around. The girl's eyes widened, and she gave Tsunade an expectant look while giving the puppy eye no jutsu. According to Naruto, hey, I'm not the idiot who got captured. Tsunade replied, no, but you're the idiot who pissed off the strongest ninja village in the world several times. Naruto replied, and we all lived, so what's wrong with that? Because not everyone can climb out of a snake pit without dying from the venom. Dobi, now let's go, or do I need to kick your ass again? Said Naruto after he returned to find everyone still standing where they were. 10 Kajbunshin appeared, and 2 of them grabbed Kushina and Selen and placed them on 2 more clones' backs. One of them grabbed Terra's bridal style and lifted her up, while Naruto himself picked up Tsunade's bridal style, who eeked, and said, let me go. Naruto shook his head and said, fine Kajbunshin no jutsu. Tsunade froze, staring at Naruto with murder in her eyes, and said, you wouldn't. Naruto said, no, Now stop moving or my hands might go where Jiraiya wants his to go. Terra placed her head on Naruto's shoulder and whispered in the clone's ear, thank you for saving us and not leaving us there to die. No matter what happens, I am glad you came into our lives. Naruto looked at her and said, try me as long as you behave, I will be a gentleman, but if you don't then all bets are off. Set the pace, the rest of you form a star around us and look for dangers, let's go. He then took off to the trees, to the cries of delight from the two young girls who were riding piggyback. In response, the clone muttered, can you do me a favor? As Terra put it, watch Kushina for you. The clone's eyes widened for a moment. Yeah, I have to help Sasuke with something and I can't bring her with me. I got money to pay to take care of her from Whirlpool Treasure Room in case I don't make it back. Please look after her like you would Selen. I would ask Tsunade to do it, but if the Leaf Village is to survive what is to come in the future, then they will need her skills to save lives. Terra responded, but how can you be sure that the future hasn't changed enough to not need her? The clone looked thoughtfully for a few moments before saying, because as long as there is pain in the world there will be war and death. It is an endless spiral of death that consumes all and leaves nothing behind. He was right. The only way to bring peace is to end the pain. In an attempt to understand what that meant, Terra looked up and studied the clone's eyes before turning to face the real Naruto and asking herself, what did he mean? For the next hour, Tsunade did not move except to stare at Naruto and observe how the world moved around her. She thought, show off, he's moving at speeds faster than even I could and he cares me. She crossed her arms and attempted to settle in, but Naruto kept his gaze fixed on Sasuke, who was running 50 yards farther ahead. Tsunade closed her eyes as the sun started to set, gradually growing weary as she glanced over and noticed that Kushina, Selen, and Terra were all asleep. So when are we making camp? She asked. Naruto replied, we're not. Sasuke and I both can go days without rest, so we are going to get you all to Konoha about dawn. With a curious expression on her face, Tsunade opened her eyes and said, but that's insane, you can't keep those clones up for that long and see in the dark, can you? Naruto was saying, don't worry Tsunade, Sasuke and I aren't normal humans, we are closer to demons, remember? Tsunade looked at him and thought, so he's still pissed at me, but then what about what he told Sasuke when I left the slug behind? Did he really mean that? And asked, hey Naruto, who was your sensei, I mean who trained you? After giving her a startled look, Naruto questioned, why do you want to know? Tsunade replied, well I was just wondering because I hate to admit it but you're in a whole other league than I am just curious about your past. I guess the one who you can give most of the credit to would be Jiraiya, Naruto said, wearing a detached expression. With wide eyes, Tsunade exclaimed, that pervert. Naruto laughed and replied, yeah, Ero Sanin may have been the world's biggest super pervert but his heart was solid gold. When I first met him it was during the Chunin exams. Tsunade inquired, what's that? Naruto smiled and said, after the Second Great Ninja War the economy of the world was in ruin, so to save their villages Iwa, Kumo, Mist, Suna, and Konoha all decided to try and draw clients to their villages but needed a way to advertise their skills. It was agreed upon that an exam twice a year would be held with a new village hosting it each year to draw people not only to the exam to make bets on who would win but also to show some of the up-and-coming ninja that each village had. It worked as a substitute for war for a few years until some of the smaller nations who were losing their clients to the Big Five tried to get into the exams and were refused. It got to the point 15 nations united together and attacked 4 of the 5 great nations, leaving Mist alone since they were so far away, and that sparked the Third Great Shinobi War. That war was a bloodbath and it was where several great ninja from Konoha came to the forefront, but none of them compared to my father. He was trained by Ero Sanin and created 2 jutsu that made him feared in the world, the Rasengan and the Hiraishin. With a blink, Tsunade questioned, Flying Thunder God, what's that? Naruto said, remember how we left the castle instantly? Somehow that was the Hiraishin. It allowed my father to kill 1000 Iwa ninja in less than 5 minutes by himself. He became known as the Yellow Flash and was marked as an SS rank ninja with a flea on sight issued on him. Anyone who did not flee was immediately listed as dead and no search team would go look for them. Odd, Tsunade said, and you can use that jutsu. As Naruto put it, yeah. Naruto and Sasuke froze, and all the girls were awakened by a voice that shocked them all. He actually was planning to use that jutsu to save Eunice. Naruto exclaimed, Teme, how the hell did we both miss him, and what are you doing here, Naidame-sama? As they turned to see the Naidame Hokage emerge from the lake. Tobirama replied, well, we got Tsunade's summon and I was sent to try and intercept her before she got to Whirlpool, but it appears I was too late. After Naruto put Tsunade down, Kushina pointed to Tobirama and questioned, who's that uncle? Naruto glanced at her and responded, A friend now, can you explain how were you able to not only get past me and him but also able to hear what I was saying to her? Tobirama said, Sweden. View globes, as tiny globs of water shot out of the forest in all directions and into the lake, enlarging it. It enables me to send water from a water source up to 5 miles away in all directions. When someone walks by, it transmits the sound and view of the people talking or doing something else, which reflects around the air pocket I was in underwater like a huge television. Since I was unsure of Tsunade's exact location, I used it to look for her and pick you all up nearby. Regarding how you failed to notice my chakra signature, I lowered it to evade detection after the lake filled it with water. Sasuke, looking bored, said, Okay Dobi, we got them to Konoha, so can we go now, as Naruto nodded. In a few teme, said Naruto, scowling. I need to take care of a few things. With a glance at her great uncle, Tsunade questioned, was I really Black Ops? Your grandfather had to do what was best for the many, not the few, Tobirama said with a sigh and a nod of his head. He had no other option, even though he didn't want to. Tsunade looked away, closed her eyes, and said, I see. When Naruto noticed this, he turned to face Tobirama and asked, May I speak with you in private? Tobirama gave Tsunade a quick glance, nodded, and they both leapt several hundred yards away. When they came to a stop, Tobirama said, Thank you. But before he could say anything more, Naruto put his fist in his face and said, Shut the hell up you bastard before I kill you. That was not the right way to tell Tsunade bullshit about the needs of the many. Although I am aware that you and the rest of your family didn't enjoy it, the village isn't always first. Family must sometimes come first. I now want you to return outside and comfort your niece by giving her a hug, or else I will demonstrate to you just how much I suppressed Madara. After stopping the bleeding by holding his nose and using a small medical jutsu, Tobirama got up and turned to face Naruto, who was staring at him. Alright, but first tell me, how exactly is Sasuke Uchiha here now? He said, I am aware of who he is. You don't realize how long I watched you. All I know, he's the one you told me about because I saw and heard everything you did in front of Whirlpool, as well as what you said to Sasuke and the girls. I am aware that your mother is the redhead, but who are the other two? My entire trip back was a setup, Naruto remarked with a frown, in order to wait until he could use the people I care about to persuade me to assist him in finding his fiancée copyright, whom he had to send back to protect from her father's wrath. Sasuke was the one who made arrangements for Gaara to send me back after he staged his death. Tobirama responded, but why send his fiancée copyright back in time to save her from her dad? When he felt a blade at his neck, he heard Sasuke say, because her father is Madara Uchiha from our time, and just because the Dobi was too busy with his hormones to detect you didn't mean I didn't. When the Tobirama he was holding the kunai had dissolved into blood, Sasuke tensed up and heard him say, just because I mostly use Suiden and Raiden Jutsu doesn't mean I don't know others Uchiha. As he turned into ravens and materialized a few feet away, Sasuke turned to face the rear and uttered the words, blood clones. Having had enough of these games, Naruto let loose a huge amount of his ki, causing all the women to faint and Sasuke and Tobirama to collapse to their knees. Now that the pissing contest is over, you both are going to listen to me, he said. The young girl is Selene, the woman's daughter, and her name is Terra. They helped me obtain the information that Tsunade sent back to you, and they are the reason I was able to save her in the first place. Terra's husband wasn't faithful to you or him, and he was one of the men sent to kill your grandson. Team, her father sold her into slavery after the bastard drugged and sexually assaulted her while she was pregnant, and neither the Tsuchikage nor her father took any action. If you gain her trust, you might be able to use her special talent for Konoha. Sasuke got to his feet first, glaring at Naruto, who returned the glare. Whatever Dobi, Sasuke said. He let the curse seal cover him, grew bat wings, and took off. When you're done, meet me where we had our first real fight. Naruto asked, so you want me to trust her? As he turned to face Tobirama, who was slowly getting to his feet. No, I don't expect you to trust her. You owe me, Naruto said. I want you to allow Selene, Terra, and Kushina to live in Konoha as civilians in exchange for saving Nawaki and Tsunade from you, and no matter what limitations you impose to maintain village security, none of the three should be forced to do anything like serve as breeding stock. It is your responsibility, not Konoha's or your brother's, to ensure their safety. Nobody else has them. That I trust you will be held accountable if they are hurt. According to Tobirama, you dare threaten me? Threatened? No, said Naruto with a snort. Declare a fact and make a commitment. Yes, and I never break my word. I will not be going back to Konoha once I've completed my tasks for Sasuke. I'll go back and complete the things I should have done earlier and get rid of Madara. It was he who infuriated Iwa into taking Tsunade hostage. Here, he said, holding out multiple scrolls. As he accepted the scrolls, Tobirama asked, what are these? With a slightly anxious expression. The blue scroll contains a comprehensive map of Whirlpool Village and the current military presence, Naruto stated. A portion of Whirlpool's treasury is contained in the green scroll. I took enough to ensure that, provided they don't waste it, those three will be able to lead normal lives. Tsunade alone is the recipient of the red scroll after Tsunade got home safely. I told Nawaki to read his as well. The two white scrolls contain all of my knowledge, so they are just my farewells and a few things that I believe could save their lives in the future. It has standard storage seals and is separated by age. Please ensure that Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze receive the scrolls within those sections once they have reached the appropriate age. It will help them both become stronger, and hopefully they will still be able to get together. I would like you to assist them in getting together, but I am asking for too much already. Why don't you give them these? Tobirama asked, glancing at Naruto and the scrolls. You can go back and get them, I mean. Do you know why there are wars? Naruto asked, glancing up at the sky. Naruto responded, because people only remember the pain of loss and the fear that losing something gives them. As Tobirama shook his head in confusion, man must stop worrying about losing what is important and cherish what he has in order to prevent wars. Like my sensei, I want to see peace in the world, but I will do it through life and protection rather than death and destruction. Goodbye, he said, disappearing in a flash of yellow. A breeze blew through the area where Naruto had been standing moments earlier, and Tobirama heard a whisper in the wind that said, "Chosen is the destiny of the world." He looked around, trying to identify the source of that voice. When Naruto arrived at the Valley of the End, Sasuke was brandishing a tri-pronged kunai. He threw it to Naruto, who caught it, pocketed it, and asked, "So where is this girl supposed to be starting from?" Sasuke added, "Next time, don't send a clone." "Rain," said Sasuke. Naruto replied, "Cool, maybe I can see it when it's not in ruins or a hole in the world." "Only you would admire your own handiwork," snorted Sasuke. He and Naruto both leapt away, saying, "Let's go, Dobi." Tobirama asked, "Is everyone okay?" as Tsunade and the others woke up. "What happened and where are Sasuke and Naruto?" Tsunade asked, surveying the area. "They said they had a task to complete, and I assured them that I would ensure everyone arrived safely in Konoha. Tobirama said we should leave if everyone is prepared from here. Konoha is roughly 5 hours away." When Tsunade noticed Kushina staring down, she scowled, went to pick her up, and reassured her, saying, "It's okay, he'll return, I swear to you." As Terra, who was holding her daughter, nodded and wiped a tear from her eyes, she said, "Let's go then." The guards at the gate were shocked to see Tsunade alive. When the group reached Konoha's gates, a whirl of leaves appeared in front of the group, and the Hashirama appeared. He saw Tsunade and exclaimed, "Oh Tsunade! Thank God you're safe." He attempted to embrace her, but she moved away from him, so he stopped, and Tsunade said, "I want to talk to you privately." "Very well, who are the rest of our guest, brother?" Hashirama remarked. Hashirama's eyes widened when Tobirama said, "The little redhead is Kushina Uzumaki, princess of Whirlpool Country and the last Uzumaki besides Naruto." "What is she doing here, brother?" he asked, glancing at the young woman. Tsunade stated, "Kakazu and Madara Uchiha killed the other members of the Uzumaki clan while they were posing as Konoha ninja only because she wasn't in the castle when it occurred. Was the girl here spared because of him? Whirlpool has now allied with Iwa to oppose us. I was taken into custody and almost put to death because Madara has also been attacking a number of villages along the Iwa border in an attempt to enrage them against us." As Tsunade slapped him across the face, Hashirama scowled and questioned, "How are you sure that it was Madara and not Naru?" Tsunade began to scream, "How many more people are going to suffer because of you? Madara Uchiha is evil. I saw the looks on the faces of the people who lost their friends and family to the bastard. I saw as they spat on me and threw rotten fruit to humiliate me when they were going to execute me. How can I be sure it was Madara and not Naruto?" The answer is simple. He's not that type of person. He goes out of his way to avoid hurting others. If he could, when he rescued me from IWA, he did it without killing anyone. The only time he killed anyone was when I made a mistake that nearly got us all captured and killed, and he was forced to. Until you can see the truth about Madara and Naruto, you're a black ops to me, as I was to Yo Hokage-sama. Her voice was venomous. "I see," Hashirama said, looking down, "that I am no longer able to lead this village as it should be led due to my personal beliefs as we previously discussed. I hand the village over to you." As he started to leave the gates, he said, "Guide them well, as I was unable to." Tobirama inquired, "Where are you going, brother?" "North of here is our clan property." Hashirama stated. "You are familiar with the location." As he departed in a whirl of leaves, he said, "I will spend the rest of my days there." Looking at where he had been a moment before, Tsunade shed a tear and thought, "Oh grandfather, I'm sorry." She tensed up when she felt someone embracing her legs, and then she saw Kushina smiling and embracing her while saying, "Don't cry, Dr. Lady." "You're wrong, Sasuke." He made his mother smile, Tsunade said with a smile. "Tsunade, take these three to the guest cabin Naruto used when he was here. Tobirama side, they will remain there. You can then visit your mother. I have to go to the tower and let the other villagers know that my brother has resigned." "Come on, everyone," said Tsunade. Biting her lip, "I can point out a place for you to stay since it only has 2 bedrooms. The girls might have to share a room, but after I visit my mother and brother, I'll bring you some food and supplies." When Terra bowed, she said, "Thank you Tsunade, and thank you also Tobirama Hokage-sama." As Tsunade leads them away, Tobirama nods and departs in a flurry of leaves. "Tsunade, is that you?" Tsunade's mother asked in a trembling voice as she slowly got up from a chair she was sitting in when she arrived home. And with a smile, Tsunade said, "Yeah mom, I'm home." Tuka ran over and gave her daughter the strongest embrace she could while screaming, "Tsunade." When Naoki heard Tsunade's name scream, he ran downstairs and yelled, "What's wrong, mom?" He stopped on the stairs, saw Tsunade, and leapt over the railing and landed on the ground. He then ran toward his mother and sister and tackled them both to the ground, yelling, "Sis," and giving Tsunade a hug. Nawaki's head was touched by Tsunade, who said, "Hey Squirt, I'm back." "Wasn't that Naruto-sensei?" Nawaki asked, looking up at her. "I take it that he saved you? Where is he now?" "Yes, it was him, and he's gone for the time being," Tsunade said with a smile. He left to assist an old friend who had come to him in need of assistance. With a perplexed expression, Tuka questioned, "Really, what friend?" After giving her a quick glance, Tsunade said, "Sasuke." Then Tsunade said, "It's all right, trust him." Tuka's eyes widened and she covered her mouth. After biting her lip, Tuka said, "All right, sweetheart, welcome home. You must tell us everything you know about it." Tsunade replied, "Yes, but let's go buy some groceries first. All 3 of the guests in our guest cabin are in need of some food. Okay, I'll explain after that." "Sure," Tuka said, drawing both of her kids near to her. Naruto stood on a hill in Rain Country the following day, whistling and uttering the words, "Damn, so this is what it looked like before." Standing next to him, Sasuke remarked, "Yeah, so do you feel her?" With a sigh, Naruto said, "Give me a minute." He put his hands together, and 4 Kagebunshin appeared. 3 of them took off in different directions, while the 4th shape changed into Tazuna and entered the village. Naruto sat down and closed his eyes, and he was covered in silver chakra. Sasuke, using his Sharingan, saw that the 3 clones that had circled the hidden village also turned silver, and 15 minutes later, they all vanished into smoke. Naruto sat there for a short while before the chakra around him vanished, and he stood up to survey the village and asked, "So which do you want? The news about Orochimaru raping your ass, the bad news, the worst news, or the good news?" Sasuke scowled and uttered the words, "What? The good news is that I found your girl." Naruto said she is being protected by 4 Do squads in a hospital. Apparently, Rain caught her and thought she was a spy since they are aware that she is a Uchiha. Hanzo has her there so they can use her as breeding stock. The bad news is that. With his fist clenched, Sasuke questioned, "What's the rest of the news?" "You have twins, a boy and a girl," Naruto said, pointing. "The boy is being held there in another clan compound, and the girl is being held there in a clan compound," she said, gesturing to another location. Sasuke's hands were gushing blood when he inquired, "Are they all right?" Naruto continued, "Your girl's been sedated, but besides that she appears fine. The kids I can't be for sure since they're under heavy guard. The worst news is that Akatsuki is here," causing Sasuke to scream. "What?" Naruto remarked, "My clone who entered the hospital to investigate the presence of the strongest curse seal there overheard Hanzo and Madara conversing. They apparently have a long history, and after testing your girl's blood, they determined that she is a Madara daughter." "Shit Dobi," said Sasuke with a frown. "Is there any way this could get worse?" "Yeah, we have 30 squads of Do coming this way," Naruto said. "Sensing my nature chakra, leave now so I can take care of them. You pick up your girl from the hospital while I'm busy diverting Madara and Hanzo's attention. 219 rooms front side of the hospital's east wing. 1 squad is in the room with her. 1 is on the roof, 1 is on the first floor, and half is outside on the balcony and half is in the hallway leading into the room. Everyone feels the Chunin level." "How sure are you about the info?" inquired Sasuke. According to Naruto, as sure as God. Oh greedy. Naruto was covered in smoke, resembling Gaara, and he sat down to meditate. After Sasuke nods and flashes through a series of hand signals before vanishing. After a short while, 30 Do squads surrounded him. "Yes," Naruto said, opening his eyes. "Is something wrong?" "Who are you and what are you doing here?" asked one of the do. "My name is Gaara," Naruto said. "I'm just resting on this hill to replenish my energy as a seal master." In a neutral tone, "Ask, is that a problem?" "Don't get all snobbish, asshole. One person said we can kill you because you are trespassing in our nation." In Gaara's lifeless voice, Naruto questioned, "And what's to say I am not also from this country and have free rights to come and go as I please?" "You're not from here, outsider," said another DEW. "We are able to tell. We'll kill you if you don't join us now." With a shrug, Naruto raised his hands and said, "Sure, take me to your leader." Before they placed Naruto in a pair of chakra bindings, all of the men were tense. Naruto passed out after one of them struck him in the back of the head. Upon awakening, Naruto discovered that he was strapped to a chair and noticed seals on the wall. He remarked, "Well, they sure know how to hold a normal person." When the door to his room opened about 20 minutes later, Naruto saw Hanzo enter and exclaimed, "Well, is it him?" "No," Madara said, glancing at Naruto with his Sharingan. "I have to ask you, boy, but it doesn't seem to be how to utilize the nature chakra." According to Naruto, "Huh, what's that and who are you?" After giving Naruto a fierce look and striking him in the face, Madara remarked, "That chakra you were leaking before you were captured." "Oh, Toad chakra," said Naruto, blinking. "Sorry, but that's the only name I've ever heard of it. In any case, who are you?" "This is Madara, and I'm Hanzo, the leader of Rain Country," Hanzo said, "one of my associates." "All right," Naruto said, "I met this young man named Jiraiya at the hot springs when he was snooping on a woman there. The toad he was supposed to be training with came and found him. I was traveling the world learning about seals in the hopes of one day freeing my father from a seal he had sealed himself into. I don't really know what was said, but after they got into a fight, the toad declared that he could use anyone as a summoner. He then leapt on my head and told the Jiraiya child that he would have to return to Toad Mountain and demonstrate his summoner skills if he wanted to learn. I was his apprentice up until that point. The next thing I know, I'm breathing heavily on a huge mountain somewhere, and he asks me my name. I introduced myself as Gaara and explained my goal of becoming a seal master. The toad nods and says he will give me access to their seal knowledge if I can pass a test. Since I never really trained to be a ninja aside from learning how to make sealsa, I don't have much chakra, so the test was to teach me how to control Toad chakra. He believed that Toad chakra would be sufficient to help me save my father. It took me more than 6 months to get to where I am now, and once I finished reading the little book on seals, they took me back to the hot springs where I had begun." Madara narrowed his eyes and asked, "Do you have any proof of your claim?" as Hanzo scowled and turned to face him. "If you'd like, I can explain each seal in this room because I recognize them all and can disable them if I so choose," Naruto said. "I think they're all fairly inexperienced." Frowning, Hanzo remarked, "You think you can do better? How about a bet?" Naruto said, closing his eyes, "I am aware of a seal that can keep us in this room for a full day if I am unable to disable all of the seals in this room in that time. Explaining what I disabled and creating a better seal for each, I will become your servant. However, if I am able to do so, you will allow me to study all of your nation's sealing knowledge and grant me the freedom to come and go as I please. What do you say?" he asked, grinning. Hanzo replied, "And why should I not just kill you or keep you here until you die?" Naruto replied, "Because a good seal master is hard to come by, and you know I might be able to create something to help your country, like a seal you can use to make it quit raining for a couple of days so your country could prosper." "Can you really do something about the rain here?" Hanzo asked, his eyes wide. Rain, according to Naruto, is just water that has condensed until it is no longer able to withstand it. Rainfall occurs in your country as a result of ocean water entering from wind countries' powerful winds to weaken the wind that enters your country. I would only need to make a seal if you would like. I could also make it rain only once a year, once a month, or once a week. What do you think, Madara? Hanzo asked, glancing at the person observing Naruto. Madara replied, "Very well, I have always been interested in the effects of seals." "All right," Naruto said, "how about letting me go so I can demonstrate my sealing expertise to you both once you realize I'm telling the truth? I'll make that seal to correct the weather here in return for your sealing expertise. Are you in agreement, Hanzo-sama?" "Yes," Hanzo replied, "but only Madara will remain with you. I have obligations I have to fulfill for my nation," he said, releasing Naruto. "Very well," said Naruto as he reached into his vest. A puff of smoke and a scroll appeared, startling both Madara and Hanzo. Hanzo thought, "My men are getting sloppy," he said, "Good day to you then," and walked away. "I shall begin immediately." As he disabled the other seals in the room, Naruto started drawing a seal on the wall and explaining what it was and how it worked. Sasuke waited until nightfall in an abandoned apartment. After leaving Naruto, he crept outside and started moving stealthily in the direction of the hospital as night fell. He swiftly emerged behind one of the men on the balcony as he arrived, stabbing both of them in the head to kill them before they could recognize him. Then Sasuke crept to the window, used his Sharingan to genjutsu the room, and stepped inside after killing the 4 men in the room who were still trapped in the genjutsu. He unhooked the IV in Miko's arm, snuck away with her, and showed up in the abandoned apartment. He had discovered he had seen his fiancée copyright, Miko, sleeping on the bed. Then he felt a chill, looked out, blinked, and thought, only one person does the impossible. Dobby, how the hell did you make it snow in rain country where it never snows when it is 90 fucking degrees outside? As he hurried out of his office toward the sealed room where Madara and Naruto were, Hanzo narrowed his eyes and asked himself, how is this possible? Then he recalled what Naruto had said, thinking, if he can make it quit raining in rain country, then he could also freeze the rain. I have to stop him. When he arrived, he jerked the door open and saw Madara sitting with his arm resting on the armrest, watching Naruto with his Sharingan while Naruto was drawing and speaking in a bored tone. Then Hanzo yelled, what have you done? Madara and Naruto both blinked and simultaneously questioned, what are you talking about? Hanzo replied, it's snowing outside and the temperature has dropped 60 degrees in the last hour. What are you doing? A clone emerged from the wall, unsealing a Hiraishin kunai, and Naruto popped his back in a bored tone. Madara looked at him worriedly now, and Naruto said, this? His eyes widened as he saw Naruto standing there, and then there was a yellow flash near the door. Naruto slammed the door shut, and the room glowed blue, and both men felt their chakra being sucked out. After that, Naruto found Sasuke's chakra signature by shining back to the hill where he had begun. She's a looker, Teme, Naruto said. She's shushin there, and felt a kunai against his neck. Madara and Hanzo are both trapped in a room that will suck their chakra like it was mine earlier to freeze all the water in rain country for the next 24 hours. We got till then to get you kids and fiancée copyright out of here. You could have killed Madara and you didn't, gritted Sasuke's teeth. Naruto replied, couldn't. Most of my chakra was sealed off in the prison room they had me in. I couldn't use any ninjutsu, and without it I am not sure I could beat him. So for now we can wait. Listen, I can get your kids and you get your wife. You know that island north of the fire country, that little one that the fire temple was built on? Sasuke replied, yeah, what about it? Naruto replied, that's where I've been living. I got a cabin set up there and I was given that land by the Shodaimes for saving his grandson. Go there with your wife, I will get your kids. Gritting his teeth, Sasuke uttered, but they're my family. The red eyes of Naruto lit up and he said, you are my brother, so they are my family as well. I will get them alive and return them to you. Somebody has to watch here and you won't trust anyone else. Trust me, I promise that I will get them. You better, Sasuke said, biting his lip, or I will kill all your precious people. Deal, Naruto said. Now go. Sasuke picked up Miko, snarled, and walked away. Naruto said, you can come out now, Toby, or should I say, Madara, I know you're there. After he had left. Every time I see you, you impress me more and more. Tell me, how come I have a daughter and grandchildren when I have never had any, said a figure emerging from the shadows. You want me? Then pay my price. I will summon 2 foxes. You will let them take the children and leave. I will then tell you the truth, and you and I will have our true fight, the one that you have wanted since that day I defeated you with our restrictions, the eternal Sharingan versus the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, Naruto said, causing Madara to widen her eyes and Kakazu, who was holding both infants, to frown. How do I know that you won't run away once the children are safe? Madara asked, giving Naruto a sidelong glance. I will only leave if you run away or one of us dies, Naruto stated. Madara, I will never allow you to harm anyone else again. One child, the girl may leave, Madara stated. The boy will stay as a guarantee that you won't abandon him. Kakazu will kill him if you do. I agree. As he bit his thumb, Naruto scowled and remarked, very well. Karen then materialized. Karen, Naruto said, I need you to take the baby girl to the island where I previously called everyone. She is Sasuke's daughter, and he is there after I take care of something. Tell him his son will be there. Naruto, you, Karen said, frowning as she glanced at the 2 men. I'll win, Karen, declared Naruto. Please take her and leave, no matter the cost. I am not as important as she is. After Karen transforms into a human and nods, Naruto takes the girl, wraps her in a blanket, and hands her to Karen, who immediately runs off. After they left, Madara threw a punch at Naruto, who ducked it, cut his hand, and flashed through hand seals. A second Naruto then materialized and threw a kunai at Kakazu, who ducked, but the second Naruto grabbed the boy and backed away. There, Naruto said he rubbed his still bleeding hand across a seal, and chakra burst off his body, saying, "Now I can finally go all out." Sasuke felt the chakra several miles away and thought, "Be careful, Dobi." He turned to face the hidden rain village, and his Sharingan picked up two individuals who were approaching him. When Karen landed, he put his Fianka copyright on the ground and got ready to fight. When Sasuke saw the baby, he asked, "What's going on?" Before Karen could respond, Naruto reappeared with his infant son. Naruto then dissolved into blood and said, "Take them and go somewhere safe." Sasuke, "This is goodbye, my friend." With his son growling, Sasuke demanded, "What's going on?" "He's preparing to fight Madara, and if he's got your son also, that means he's fighting Kakazu also," Karen said, casting a downward glance. With his teeth clenched, Sasuke uttered, "Take them to Konoha." "Karen, I'm almost out of chakra." Karen said, "I felt your chakra here after using the majority of it." When Sasuke heard a distant explosion, he said, "All right, my wife and kids will be transported to Konoha by one of my raven summons to make sure they make it and to let the Senju and the Uchiha clan know what's going on. You are supposed to accompany them. Tell them to go to the Valley of the End. If they owe Naruto anything, the Dobi will be dragged there by me. Do you get it?" "Yes," Karen replied after his family had left. A few minutes after Sasuke nodded, he turned back toward Rain Country and thought, "Well, at least I know what's going to turn Rain into a pile of rubble." He then changed into his level 2 curse seal and flew in Rain's direction. While a wall of wind cut into Kakazu, Naruto dodged beneath a dragon of water and twisted around a stream of fire while flashing one hand sign on each hand. A dragon of fire then emerged from the stream of fire and headed back toward Madara, who stopped breathing fire and ducked the attack. After a kunai landed where he had been and then exploded, Naruto leapt back and created 20 Kage Bunshin, who then formed pairs of 4 and started collecting chakra in their hands. At that moment, a lightning creature appeared in the middle of the 5 groups of Kage Bunshin, turning the forming Rasen Shurikens from blue to black. Naruto swiftly squirmed away when he saw this, and the black balls of chakra burst. Naruto whistled and remarked, "Good one, Teme," as he emerged from the hill overlooking the village when a mushroom cloud formed in the middle of the village and buildings started to collapse or slide sideways. Naruto thought, "Well, I finally know what turned Rain into a bunch of rubble. Using that jutsu on my Rasen Shurikens is like using Chidori against Rasengan." When Naruto's form stabilized, Sasuke landed next to him on the hill and asked, "Do you think we got him?" "Nope," Naruto said, glancing to the left to see Madara sitting and munching on an apple. However, it killed the hearts of 3 other bastards. Kakazu suddenly materialized next to Madara, glaring at Naruto and Sasuke as Naruto uttered the words, "Heads or tails?" This is what Sasuke said, "Madara versus Hashirama statues. Right, you lead 4 eyes, I'll finish Mr. Heart Attack and join you," Naruto said, his eyes widening. As his Sharingan transformed into his Magna-Q Sharingan, Sasuke nodded and remarked, "Madara Uchiha, let's see whose Sharingan eye is more powerful." According to Naruto, wind and fire are all you have left, right? Madara scowled as the 2 men vanished into thin air. A spike of wood and a spike of sand appeared in the ground behind and in front of Kakazu, who sneered and then stiffened as he coughed up blood. Naruto then walked over, unsheathing his sword, and chopped off Kakazu's head before turning to face the hidden rain village and thinking, "I wonder if history is just repeating itself. After all those years, it still looks just like the day I first saw it. Am I truly going to have an impact?" As he started to leap away, he said, "I know it seems like history is changing, but is it really changing? Who knows right now? I need to help Teme finish that bastard off once and for all." Following Naruto's departure, a second mask materialized from the earth, fused with Kakazu's body, and started to shoot black hair that seized his head and replaced it. Black hair like chakra constructs then fused it back together, and Kakazu smirked as he attacked the rain ninjas that had arrived. Madara remarked, "You're very skilled for some reject who couldn't stand the might of the true Uchiha clan," as she and Sasuke ran parallel to one another across the ground, both of them using kunais to fight with knives. Sasuke replied, "At least I didn't have to have my brother kill himself after giving me his eyes for being so weak like you." After frowning and tossing his kunai and a puff of smoke, Madara swung his battle fan at Sasuke, who sidestepped all of the blades and remarked, "You're too slow, old man. With a battle fan, I know a kunoichi who was a genin who was superior to you." While making a half-hand sign, Madara swung his fan once more, and fire shot out of his mouth, catching the wind and growing larger as it headed toward Sasuke, who thought, "Shit!" Just as he was beginning to make hand signs, a red blur appeared in front of him, and a wall of water formed in front of the fireball, covering the area in mist. As he finished his hand signs, Sasuke said, "Take your time, Dobi." Then, as lightning struck the mist, he said, "Raiden." Thunderstruck. As Naruto and Sasuke split apart, Madara, who was in the air ridding his battle fan, said, "Nice try, but try this." Naruto then retorted, "Bite me." Teme. Black flames erupted from his eye before the sound of metal hitting the ground and a grunt could be heard. The normal Rasengan he was building in his hand was thrown at Madara, hitting his fan and causing an explosion. At that moment, a massive cloud of smoke materialized, and Hanzo, atop a massive salamander, declared, "I'll kill you, Gaara." A rough, monotone voice said, "Not likely," before a sand-clad hand grabbed the salamander, tossed it into the air, and slammed it back into the ground before Naruto or Sasuke could respond. Hanzo, Madara, Sasuke, and Madara all turned to face Gaara, who was now standing with his arms folded. The voice said, "Yo, Uzumaki, you miss me, it's your old pal Hachibi and Killer Bee." "All right," Naruto said, turning to face the second voice. "I'm willing to accept Teme and even speculate about Gaara. But why in the world are you here, Kira B?" "I told B that I didn't trust the Uchiha who was waiting for you to leave after they approached me and offered to change the future by sending you back," Gaara said. "I had been spying on the Uchiha once you were gone, and when he returned, I thought he might be coming to kill you. So B and I returned as well since our entire family was dead. It didn't really matter what we did because the game was lost, but now it's a new game, Desert Coffin." He grabbed Hanzo with his sand before saying, "Desert Burial." Hanzo's body exploded into a shower of blood. "I suppose that leaves just me," Kira remarked as the Hachibi's chakra started to envelop Kira. Madara scowled and thought, "A Jinchuriki it must be. Long time no see. Let me introduce myself. I am the Killer Bee, and I am here to put an end to thee." Madara he. "Hashirama. You were a fool for giving away the Biju," I said. "I see well. I can take a hint when I'm not wanted. I'm excited to meet my daughter and grandchildren. I'm excited for our battle with Namikaze as well." Everyone was shocked when trees and vines suddenly erupted from the ground, encircling Madara, and Hashirama Senju's voice said, "So you really did take your brother's eyes, Madara?" "Hello, Hashirama," Madara said as she turned. "After I killed my brother, I was waiting for you in that valley northwest of the village. I wanted our differences to be resolved once and for all." Hashirama remarked, "What's stopping you and me now?" Madara said, "I found someone more interesting to play with." After glancing at Sasuke and Naruto Senju, "You were a fool. These men are all Jinchurikis. Don't worry, though. Your gifts of peace were turned into weapons of war. To ensure that these weapons are used to their full potential, I will make sure to fan the flames of war." 12 swords made of light materialized in a circle around Madara, who exclaimed, "What is this?" Naruto's voice could be heard yelling, "Swords of light." Naruto said, "Everyone, this is our best chance to end it all." As they all noticed his Kage Bun Shin standing close to the edge of the clearing. "Make use of your strongest jutsu. My clone cannot get away as long as he is alive, but we don't have much time, so act quickly." When Madara's attempt to break out of the circle using his Sharingan failed, he dashed for the gap between the swords, only to have a barrier materialize. As a Rasen Shuriken formed in his hands, Naruto, who had created 2 more Kage Bun Shin, remarked, "It won't work. This jutsu is strong enough to capture a Biju. I was given this jutsu by the mother of my daughter, the daughter you and your army killed." Sasuke, who had gone to level 2 to Curse Seal, shot into the air and began using lightning charka to charge the clouds. As a cyclone of wind encircled his body, Gaara, who had joined his hands in hand signs, said, "This is for my siblings that you took from me." As a black ball started to form in the air above him, Kira, who had now fully released all 8 of the Hachibi's tails, said, "This is for my brother." "I've never seen any of you and have never done anything to you," declared Madara with a sneer. "Our existence is more than enough reason to destroy you," Gaara said, "because you were the reason we were created. By starting the wars that forced us to exist, you validated our existence, which will now be erased." The ki and the power he was seeing and feeling made Hashirama motionless, and he thought, "My god Madara, what have you created? What have we done?" There was a Fuden Rasenshuriken shout. Another yell of "Gods of the Wind" followed. Another Hachibi Blast shout. Kirin as finally shouted. Hashirama immediately started to flee the clearing as the 4 attacks came together on Madara, who had a terrified expression on his face. When Kakazu noticed Madara in distress, he hurled a kunai at the Kagebunshin who was making the Swords of Light. A massive ball of black chakra appeared and transformed into the side of a football stadium as the 4 attacks struck. A few seconds later, there was a huge explosion that caused a mushroom cloud to appear everywhere in the elemental nations. Winds of 200 miles per hour sliced everything in their path. Thunder shattered windows more than 150 miles away, fire left only ash, and rivers dried up completely. The dust settled after more than an hour. After reaching a valley and jumping into it just as the explosion occurred, Hashirama ultimately made the decision to go back to Ground Zero and observe the outcome. When he reached Ground Zero, he collapsed to his knees and thought, "My God, Kami." In actuality, Ground Zero was a 7-mile wide crater that was 1,000 feet deep. There was a cough, followed by the words, "I regret nothing, Dobi." Hashirama thought, "No way, how can anyone survive that?" as her eyes widened. An additional cough was heard, followed by the words, "He escaped Teme Kakazu, destroyed my cage bun Shin, and I felt him use that jutsu to escape. Kakazu died though." Kira replied, "Good, Yugito can rest easy, then I can't feel my body." The voice of Gaara questioned, "Why did we use that much power, Uzumaki?" Hashirama noticed the 4 men's bodies lying in the middle of the crater at the bottom, each with their feet pointing toward the crater's edge and their faces turned in different directions. "How did you survive?" Hashirama asked in a terrified voice as she leapt into the valley. After giving him a quick glance, Naruto said, "Sage mode." In Kira's words, "Hachibi," says Sasuke, "flew above it." "Buried myself under it," Gaara said. Kira replied, "Still wasn't as big as what we did to aim the first time, Uzumaki." With a grunt, Naruto remarked, "True, there was just a bottomless hole then." According to Kira, "We blew a hole in the moon." According to Sasuke, Dobi just signed his name on the moon. Gaara replied, "Indeed, the Uzumaki spiral was seen by all the world, so Rokudame. What do we do now?" Before he passed out as well, Kira remarked, "Uzumaki got the right idea, maybe when I wake back up I can finally feel." Naruto's snoring caused the others to start perspiring. Gaara closed his eyes and yawned, saying, "Anyone wakes me before noon next Wednesday dies." Before fainting, Sasuke grinned and uttered the words, "HN." Madara gazed at the hole on the edge of the new world and thought, "Such power, I must possess it." When Madara saw Konoha ninja and members of the Uchiha clan arrive, he clenched his fist and thought, "Someday I will have my revenge, mark my words." A female shout of, "Grandfather," was heard. As he sat up, a rag fell off his face, causing him to perspire. Naruto thought, "I knew that right, glad I didn't say anything out loud or I would have looked like a fool, he. As he started to look around and found himself in darkness, he blinked and thought, "What the hell, where am I?" When he noticed that all of his clothes were gone, Naruto scowled and got up to look around the room. He pursed his lips, then bit his thumb and wiped some blood across a seal on his shoulder, which caused a scroll to emerge. After taking the scroll and opening a few clothes, Naruto broke out in a cold sweat and exclaimed, "Damn it! My shoes aren't sealed. I could swear I had them sealed, so why the devil don't I?" Before Kushina tackled him and wrapped herself around his leg, causing him to fall to the ground because he was unprepared, Naruto heard a shout of "Uncle" as the door to the room opened and he turned. When Kushina spoke too quickly for Naruto to understand, he laughed and remarked, "Whoa, slow down, I can't understand you." Before more could be said, Naruto was also tackled by another blur that rushed into the room. This time, Selen started talking non-stop as well. Kushina covered Selen's mouth and remarked, "Uncle can't understand girl talk." "Even though I didn't say it, I know I will be punished for that," Naruto said, blinking. As both girls turned to Naruto and started talking at a rapid pace, Selen turned to Kushina and said, "Then let's teach him." With a headache beginning to develop, Naruto rubbed his temples and mused, "Thought so. Girls, Uncle Naruto just got up from being injured. He needs a few days to recover. Why don't you both go back and play while I help make sure he is okay?" Terra said as he heard a laugh, and both of the young girls stopped talking as they all turned to face the door. After pouting, the two girls got up and walked away, chatting non-stop, and Naruto remarked, "It seems they're getting along." According to Terra, "You have no idea. How are you feeling?" "Sore. How long have I been here and how did I get here?" said Naruto as he got to his feet. Terra said, "It's been a little over 2 weeks. Sakura been popping in checking on you and the other 3 who were with you, while Tsunade also been checking on you. Your healing ability is amazing. It can be a double-edged sword sometimes. So how did I get here?" said Naruto, scowling. Terra stated, "A huge raven summon appeared with a woman who was a summon as well as a Uchiha woman and 2 infants. They told that you were fighting Madara Uchiha at the valley north of the village and needed help, so Tobimaru sent several ninja including members of the Uchiha clan and Tsunade to come aid you. On their way there a huge explosion was seen, and when they got to the explosion they found you 4 and Hashirama in the crater, and Hashirama was standing over the 4 of you. Hashirama ordered that you 4 be brought back to Konoha. He claimed the damage to the crater you were found in was the result of a huge cage-level battle. The crater is now being called Rain Lake because it is filling up quickly from all the rain in the area as well as being in rain country. We made Rain Lake, is this some kind of cosmic joke or something? Are we really making a difference? Naruto thought, biting his lip. After observing Naruto's expression, Terra questioned, is something wrong? Looking down, Naruto remarked, I'm just wondering if anything I've done so far actually is changing history at all, I just don't know. Terra said, don't worry about changing the future, we make our own future, all that matters is are you happy here and now, and thanks to you both my daughter and I are very happy here, so yeah, you've made a difference. With a small smile, Naruto inquired, what happened with Gaara, B, and Sasuke? Terra replied, well, B woke up first, him and the two Senju brothers had a talk and he said he wanted to go back to his island, told the brothers to tell you it's where you mastered Mr. 9 and when you got a lead on Madara sent for him. Yeah, Naruto said, nodding, B has always been more for solitude. Terra continued, next was Sasuke, who awoke since he wasn't as injured as any of the rest of you. He woke up and said he won't tell anything until he talks with you out of respect, and the Uchiha clan as a whole sort of got their ass handed to them by him in a battle and they named him the new clan head. Naruto sighed as he said, sounds about right, Teme never was a follower, being the son of the clan head when we were kids doesn't hurt, and he always wanted to restore the Uchiha clan, so what about Gaara? Terra replied, he's still asleep, someone tried to wake him up and a clone made out sand appeared crouched behind the guy and stuck both its fingers up the guy's ass while screaming 1,000 years of death. Since then no one has had the courage to wake him up. Naruto looks at him and says, sound about right, also Gaara spent 15 years as an insomniac, being able to finally sleep would give anyone a reason to kill, much less use that attack. According to Terra, but it wasn't really an attack. Naruto replied, trust me, it's an attack. My first sensei after I made Genin used it on me. I modified it and used a kunai with exploding tags on Gaara when he was using a special summoning jutsu, it works. Terra sighed and replied, I see, well I can fix you something to eat if you want to go take a shower, and then the brothers wanted you to come to the cage building. Naruto replied, right, well I guess a good meal would help before I left. Where are you going? Inquired Terra. Naruto stated, I told Tsunade she wouldn't ever have to see me again and I wasn't supposed to ever return to Konoha, I'm going to go back to my island. After scowling, Terra remarked, I never thought you would be a coward. Turning, Naruto asked, what did you say? A coward? You're fleeing, Terra said. Naruto replied, no I'm not, I'm keeping my promises, it's what makes me who I am. You should know that since I promised to get you and Selen to safety, and I did. Terra replied, but you also made a promise that if you ever got the chance to make Tsunade smile you would. If you left it would mean you broke your promise, as she's worried about you. Someone talks too much, because I'm sure I never told you that, said Naruto with a frown. Terra replied, maybe so, but does it make it any less true? Naruto let out a sigh. Maybe you're right, I'm tired off all the fighting. Of all the killing, I'm tired of living. Terra replied, no, you're tired of the life you were living. This isn't the world you knew, Naruto, you have a chance to step back and start actually living. Sakura and I talked along with Tsunade and we know a lot about you. Why don't you do what you want and actually start to have a life? What good is living if you don't have anything that makes it worth living for? You got friends and family here who want and need you. Are you going to abandon them? What about Minato and Kushina? You're the only family they have left in the world. They're both orphans now like you were. Why don't you give them the family you always wanted? Just some thought, you able to make your own choices and live with them. I'll go make you something to eat for whichever choice you make. When she left the room, Naruto sighed after she left, thinking, perhaps she's right. After a half hour, Naruto entered the main living room and sat down at the table where Terra had placed a plate of food. He glanced at Selen and Kushina before turning to face Terra, who was sitting by doing needlepoint close to the girls. He grinned and finished his meal, thinking, this is what I always wanted, so why should I accept it? When Terra finished and put the dishes in the sink, she grinned to herself and Naruto said, I'm going out for a little bit, I'm going to see the Senju brothers. Maybe I can come, uncle? Kushina asked. Why do you call me uncle? Inquired Naruto. After a moment of hesitation, Kushina's smile faded and she said, uncertainly, well you're not my daddy but you were family and Selen calls you uncle, so I thought I would too. Is that alright? No, uncle is fine, I just wanted to make sure you felt it was okay for me to have that title since we don't know how closely we really are. Are you sure? Naruto said as he stood up and walked over to stand in front of her. After Kushina nods, Naruto turns to face Selen and remarks, that goes for you also. As Naruto got up, Selen grinned and said, but I have a very important meeting with the Senju brothers. Once that meeting is over, I'll come back as quick as I can, but it's grown-up stuff right now, okay? Naruto glanced at Terra after Kushina nodded, and Terra replied, don't even ask, I'll watch her anytime. She's become another daughter to me. As he walked away, Naruto said, Thanks, see you three later then. In order to avoid the villagers, Naruto left the village as soon as he arrived and proceeded to the Hokage tower via the roof. 3 Uchiha materialized in front of it as he landed, and Naruto blinked and uttered, can I help you? After exchanging glances, one Uchiha remarked, Naruto-sama, Sasuke-sama has requested your presence at your earliest convenience. Naruto replied, I see, tell Teme I'll see him after I get out of meeting the two brothers. A startled Uchiha said, please do not speak of Sasuke-sama with such disrespect. Naruto replied, trust me, Teme is a respectful term for him. From me, I've got the scar from where he put his fist through my chest and out my back. If you have the courage, ask him about the scars I gave him sometime. The day I call him a term of respect will be the day hell freezes over. Sasuke turned into a flock of ravens and appeared behind Naruto, who vanished in smoke, as a voice said, very true, how you feeling, Dobi? When they were facing each other, Sasuke remarked, I should have known you were too dumb to stay hurt for long, Dobi. Before they both grinned, Naruto gave him the finger and said, sit and spin, Teme, sit and spin. Sasuke replied, I'll see you when you get out of your meeting. Naruto replied, if you were going to come see me yourself, why the hell did you send them? With a bag raised, Sasuke declared, diaper duty. As he started to pass by, Naruto remarked, have fun. He had noticed a bag of cloth diapers in a bag. Sasuke replied, I wouldn't joke about Adobe, after all you were their godfather. Sasuke grinned and said, we're having an official christening ceremony. When you arrive, I'd like you to be their godfather. Will you accept? As Naruto froze and turned slightly to face him. Gazing at him, Naruto remarked, I'm honored, but why me? Sasuke replied, you're the only person in this village I know could do the job no matter what. The expression caught Naruto's attention, and he responded, I understand and I accept, but don't blame me when they become ramen addicts. You've been warned. Sasuke turned and started to leave, saying, HN, and, Dobi thanks, then turned and left. As he turned and entered the tower, Naruto thought, I guess getting laid mellowed him out, or is it fatherhood? He had seen the other Uchiha go. He knocked on the door of the Hokage office after entering, and a voice said, enter. When Naruto opened the door, he saw Hashirama standing next to him and Tobamaru behind the desk. Both of them tensed as Naruto entered, saying, hello, I apologize for being late, I got lost on the road of life. Tobamaru exclaimed, who the hell taught that to you? Sasuke used that same line when he came here, as the Senju brothers both passed out. Naruto replied, Kakashi-sensei, so I was told you wanted to see me. Tobamaru replied, yes, do you have any idea what the fuck you have done? Naruto was saying, blew a hole in the earth that could be seen from space. Tobamaru responded, yeah, you pretty much scared the piss out of every hidden village. Messages have been sent from every village to nearly every other village trying to find out what the hell happened. Naruto remarked, and what did you tell them? Hashirama stated, we told them that the Kitsune Sage had a battle with Akatsuki, who were the group of men who were framing Konoha for the attacks on Iwa, as well as several other attacks on other country like Whirlpool and Fire Country. We told them they were trying to start a war between all the villages so they could move in and steal from all sides while framing others for their crimes. We told them, as anyone who was trained as a sage, that the Kitsune Sage fights for world peace between the nations, and anyone who tries to destroy the peace by starting war is his enemy. With his lips pursed, Naruto uttered, I see. So did you give them my name or anything like that? No, Hashirama replied. Naruto uttered the words, so what now? What do you plan to do now? Asked Tobamaru. Naruto pursed his lips and said, Madara's still out there, but I'm not going to chase Ghost. My entire life I thought about going back to the island up north, but then I was asked what I would do about Kushina and Minato, even though they're my parents. They're both orphans and I know what that is like. I know you don't want me here since I'm too dangerous. In Hashirama bowed to Naruto, saying, I humbly thank you for saving my granddaughter, grandson, and my own life. I humbly ask that you forgive an old fool. And he closed his eyes and said, I was wrong. I let my personal feelings for Madara cloud my judgment. It caused a rift to form between me and my family. He had stopped when Naruto put his hands on Hashirama and said, never bow to me. Your teachings that you passed on to Hiruzen were the teachings that were passed down to me and saved me from my darkness and guided my life. We all make mistakes when those we respect and trust are involved. Sometimes it's good one and other times not. The will of fire is real. It is in the hearts of every man, woman, and child who hold those precious to them in their heart, and by doing so find the source of true strength. I've made mistakes along the way. All we can do is our best and live with the choices we make. You are truly a sage, Naruto, and I give you permission to marry my granddaughter Tsunade, Hashirama said, lowering his head. With a face fault, Naruto yelled, "WHAT?" With a laugh, Tobamaru asked, "Where's a camera when you need one?" "Okay. Hold on, what is this about marrying Tsunade?" said Naruto, massaging his temples. "Have you not seen Tsunade without her genjutsu?" asked Hashirama. With a scowl, Naruto asked, "Why?" Hashirama stated, "My clan's laws are very specific. Only a Senju woman's husband may see her true looks. You paid a dowry by saving her brother and proved your love for her by saving her from Iwa. The only thing left is the ceremony and you and her will be wed." After massaging his temples, Naruto asked, "Have you mentioned this to her?" "Who do you think told me that you have seen her?" asked Hashirama. Palming his face, Naruto uttered the words, "Damn it, this is fucked up." "Is there something wrong with Tsunade?" asked Tobirama. Naruto said, "No, look, I do care for Tsunade. But I can't be sure if the feelings I have for her is for the woman she is now or the woman she would have become if I hadn't showed up. I have issues also. I've been a father but my daughter was killed. I've had lovers but never once a girlfriend. I've got emotional baggage the size of Iwa. I'm rude, often speaking before I think, a complete idiot at times. I got annoying habits, an addiction to ramen. I'm constantly going to be thinking about my past and the friends and loved ones I lost. I've seen the worst side of humanity in the world. I've got so much blood on my hands that I don't even recognize them as hands anymore. I've got nothing that is required to event. Think of starting a relationship. I have no home, no job. I feel I got responsibilities to Kushina, Minato, Selen, and Terra. I also was asked to be the godfather of both Sasuke's twins, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm a bedhog, snore, and a million other things that will annoy her to no end." Hashirama inquired, "Is that all?" Naruto replied, "Just off the top of my head. Give me a few hours and I can give you an entire book. Serious, but my most compelling argument is that Tsunade deserves better than me. She deserves happiness. I promised her when she got back to Konoha she wouldn't ever have to see me again. It may kill me but I keep my promises." Tobamaru retorted, "Not this time. You're not. So do you still want him, Tsunade?" as Hashirama grinned. Slowly turning, Naruto froze and saw Tsunade leaning against the wall, smirking. A distortion appeared in the air, and Naruto scowled and uttered the words, "Traitor." The Kitsune Yakumo smirked before ascending into the smoke. "So," Tsunade said, frowning. Naruto uttered, "I'm screwed, ain't I?" Tsunade said, "Someday if you play your cards right you will be. First, you're wrong. You have been given the rank of Sage of Konoha and are now the instructor of Genin Team 2 with my brother. You don't have to worry about Selen or Terra, as Terra has been given the job of Hokage secretary and receives a small pay on top of housing and food. Now as for Minato and Kushina, I've had grandfather draw up legal papers turning you into the clan head of the Uzumaki in the Namikaze clan, and you already have legal guardianship papers over them, and grandfather has already used his bloodline to create us a 2-story clan house similar to the one the Senju clan has. He's also given us 5 acres of land around the house with woods and farming land so we can grow our own food. I also know about a lot of your baggage. Sakura brought most of your summons and have been telling me all kinds of things, from your first kiss with Sasuke, to painting the Hokage monument, to becoming basically the strongest person in the world. Now the only issue I have is the fact you're confused between me and the other Tsunade. To solve this, you and I will live together at your clan compound and date each other while both getting to know each other. After 3 months we will either be married or split up." Biting his lip, Naruto uttered, "And what happens if we split up?" Tsunade replied, "You don't have to worry. The 3 months is just for you and me. Either you gain me or you don't. Everything else is given to you because you have earned it." After giving it some thought, Naruto said, "Do me a favor, bet that my feelings are only for the older you." Tsunade laughed and replied, "Already did. Why do you think I gave you 3 months? Sakura pretty much demanded it, and after I made the bet she told me about my legendary luck. Just for that though, you sleeping on the floor for the first month." Snorting, Naruto replied, "Like hell I will. I'll sleep on the bed or we both sleep on the floor. I'm not going to submit to you just cause you think you're my boss." In response, Tsunade said, "Oh yeah, want to bet?" Naruto replied, "Just remember, I never lose and your luck sucks." Tsunade lost her temper and yelled, "Asshole!" She was about to strike him in the face when Naruto slipped past her defenses, moved between her arms, and planted a kiss on her lips. Before Tsunade punched him and Naruto flew out the window and halfway across the village. Tsunade had a dazed expression on her face as they broke up, and Naruto turned to smirk at the Senju brothers. Tsunade looked at the window and her fist inside the Hokage office and said, "Oops. Do you still think this was a good idea?" Hashirama asked his brother after Tsunade departed to find Naruto wherever he ended up. With a shrug, the Nidaime Hokage remarked, "Too late now. The future is in their hands now." After discovering Naruto seated on a bench in the park, Tsunade sat down beside him and remarked, "So are you okay? I didn't mean to hit you that hard." Naruto replied, "Yeah, I'm fine. You've hit me harder in the future, so it's no biggie. Look over there." "Isn't that?" Tsunade said, following his gaze. Naruto replied, "Yeah, that's my dad and he's talking to mom." At that moment, Kushina pulled away, screamed, "I am not a tomato head," and punched Minato in the face. Tsunade shivered as she said, "You know, I'm starting to see a family trait him. Wonder what he said to her to make her blush and play with her hair." As Naruto put it, "Who knows him? Wonder where Gaara is." "You're still asleep near the cabin you stayed at before," Tsunade said, glancing at him. Naruto replied, "No, he's not. I know Gaara chakra signature almost as good as my own. He's nowhere near the village. In fact, he's not even within 10 miles of the village." Tsunade replied, "He may have decided to start a new life somewhere." Naruto replied, "Maybe so. Are you ready to become a mother to a pair of hot heads?" Tsunade replied, "Mother is still a few years away, but aunt does have a nice ring to it." Naruto replied, "Good, then let's go get the kids and head to the Uchiha district. I've been asked to be the godfather to both Sasuke kids and the ceremony is today." Tsunade replied, "So that's it, you're not going to fight against this or anything?" Naruto laughed and said, "The day I go with the flow will be the day hell freezes over, but I am looking forward to what the future will bring." Tsunade took his hand and held it while saying, "Me too, me too." As they watched Minato and Kushina play, they both grinned a little. "Hey Flatchest, what the hell's going on here? Why are you holding his hand?" Jiraiya, who was passing by, blinked. As Naruto put it, "Please leave my fiancé alone, you pervert." "Fiancé? Yeah right," Jiraiya said. Jiraiya gaped as Tsunade leaned over and gave Naruto a passionate kiss, grinning and saying, "It's true, see." After the kiss ended, Tsunade said, "See, now be a good little toad and hop along." Jiraiya simply left with a stunned expression on his face. As she went to kiss Naruto again, Tsunade asked, "Now where were we?" And he gave her another interested kiss. Madara Uchiha screamed while holding his hands over his bleeding eyes on a boat headed for water country, saying, "I'll kill you both. You dare do this to the great Madara Uchiha." The voice of Gaara said, "My sand has gotten in your eyes without you noticing and has blinded you, making sure you will never be able to use them again. And I'm here to make sure that you stay dead," B's voice said as he advanced with his swords and started slicing Madara. Gaara crushed Madara's body into dust with his sand as it hit the ground. Following the conclusion, B remarked, "You were right that Madara would head here after his defeat." Gaara replied, "Yes, now the question is what shall we do? I have no purpose now." B glanced at Gaara and said, "We could always take over the mist. It's far enough away that our presence won't have major impact, and you were a kage, so running a village would be right up your alley. Besides, didn't Uzumaki say one of his first friend's family was destroyed by a bloodline civil war? Maybe you can repay Uzumaki by saving another like he saved you." "And what about you?" asked Gaara. B stated, "Someone has to be your bodyguard and head of security." Gaara replied, "Very well, but no rapping in my office." The answer was, "Yes, Mizukage-sama." Gaara was thinking, "Today marks the beginning of a new future for all of us. May Kami bless us and ensure our future does not repeat itself."
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.